out loan from $10,000 to $50,000. Everything you've come to expect from Saul's in our new location. 22nd and Harney, downtown Omaha, Saul's Jewelry and Loan.
Here's today's Husker Max Practice Report, brought to you by Tickets for Less on 1180 and 1620 The Zone.
Usually it's a shock when a true freshman is named the starting quarterback before the season opener, but few people were surprised when highly touted Dylan Raiola was named the starting quarterback when the first depth chart was released this week. Offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield.
Just his maturity at 18 years old, I think just his work ethic, his steadiness, his composure. I think that he's shown all those attributes at practice. I think he's got obviously an elite arm talent, and not just throwing the ball hard. That everybody can throw the ball hard, but he can place it where it needs to be, where he wants it to be. I think trying to some of the throws we're asking him to make, that's a big deal for us.
Raiola will be the second true freshman in the modern era to start for Nebraska at quarterback in the season opener, joining Adrian Martinez. For The Zone, I'm Nate Rohr.
The Husker Max Practice Report, brought to you by Tickets for Less on 1180 and 1620 The Zone.
Husker football fans, get ready to cheer on your Huskers like never before. Tickets for Less is offering an exclusive deal that will have you jumping out of your seat. Use promo code THEZONE and save big on Huskers tickets for every game, home and away. From the home opener to the intense new conference matchups, Tickets for Less has you covered. Don't miss a single moment of Husker football. Visit ticketsforless.com today, use promo code THEZONE, and secure your seat to see the Huskers live this season. Hurry and use promo code THEZONE. This offer won't last forever.
Experience luxury car buying like never before with Genesis of Southwest Omaha. Right now, lease the 2024 Genesis G70 Sport Advance all-wheel drive for just $499 per month. Get started online at southwestomahagenesis.com and shop our current offers happening right now. Or visit our showroom at Village Point today. 36 months, 10,000 miles per year with approved credit. Tax, title, license extra. $2,999 down plus first payment and $299 doc fee due at signing. Offer expires August 31st, 2024. See dealer for details.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. 120,000 miles of night drives, daily commutes, and who knows how many.
Are we there yet?
Through countless fixes, elbow grease, and a new radiator, you kept your ride alive. With eBay Motors, you have over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
I'm Taylor Bisciotti with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin announcing Wednesday that Russell Wilson will be the starting quarterback for the 2024 season. Wilson had been competing with Justin Fields for the top spot this entire offseason while dealing with a calf injury. Bengals head coach Zach Taylor recently saying the plan will be for receiver Jamar Chase to continue practicing and play week 1. Chase, however, showed at practice Wednesday in street clothes. The Cowboys adding more depth to their running back room, signing veteran Dalvin Cook to the practice squad, according to NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero. Jets linebacker Hassan Reddick is still holding out after requesting a trade from the team, but head coach Robert Saleh still remains optimistic, saying he's not counting out Reddick from playing week 1. Quote, he still has plenty of time. The Jets kick off their season against the 49ers Monday night, September 9th. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
Are you the parent of a 2 to 7-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the Parents' Choice Award-winning online learning program that's actually changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
Right now, we're offering a special radio promo to try it free for a month, but you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio.
Sponsored by Age of Learning.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers. So we build specially adapted homes at Homes for Our Troops. And thanks to our donors and supporters, this life-changing gift of freedom is provided mortgage-free to these veterans. But we need you to join us too in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Meet Cheryl.
Hey.
She's on vacation and lost in the moment. Unfortunately, so is her Chase debit card.
It's got to be somewhere.
Maybe she lost it at salsa night.
These skirts should have pockets.
Or maybe she lost it at Pilates.
3 and 2 and...
But she's not worried. With the Chase mobile app, she can lock her card till it turns up. Tools that help protect. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
There are any number of reasons you might consider selling your home. To move closer to family, live within a smaller budget, or just wanting a change of scenery. Whatever your reasons, having to figure out all the various housing market trends in your area may not be what you signed up for. That's where an agent who is a realtor comes in. Realtors have the expertise to help you find the right price and navigate the process to sell your home in a way that's right for you. That's who we are. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors.
Choose from our incredible selection of new Atlas, Atlas Cross Sport, Taos, Tiguan, and Jetta models. Now at Baxter Volkswagen Omaha and Baxter Volkswagen La Vista. All our vehicles come with transparent pricing, no dealer fees, and a simplified buying process. So you save time and money on your new Volkswagen. We have your new Volkswagen in stock and ready to drive home today with great financing and lease offers. Get started now at BaxterVolkswagen.com or BaxterVW.com.
Back to 1620 The Zone's Red Out Week. Presented by Union Bank and Trust, where your money has people. 1620 The Zone.
And now the 0-1 pitch on the way. Ground ball to the hole at short. Through, base hit. One run is in. Here comes Swanson scoring. The Cubs take the lead.
That one's poked to left field pretty deep. Hayes going back. He's on the track. He looks up, and she's gone. Si, senor. Opposite field home run for Alvarez. Here's the 1-2 to Jordan. And he slams one to right center field. This has hit a ton. Marsh looking up, and it's gone. A second blast by Jordan Alvarez.
The 0-1. And Chaz hits this in the air pretty deep to right center. Going back on it is Marsh. Still going back, looking up. See you later. Opposite field home run for the Philadelphia Kid, Chaz McCormick. Here's Alvarez. He has 2 homers today, and he smashes this one pretty deep to center. Marsh is racing back at the wall. See you later. A 3-homer game for Jordan Alvarez as he goes back-to-back with McCormick. A swing and a little looping liner toward left field. Base hit! Into scores Naylor. And the Guardians have scored 4 and take a 6-5 lead.
Yeah, Dylan's going to play. He's going to play the place, right? He's going to, when we call drop back, he's going to go back there, take his drop, go through his progression. Just how we want him to play when he's a junior. We're going to start day one that way. We're not easing into anything.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
You're cooking with gas.
All right, that's what it is. That's the head football coach. All gas, no brakes. Going to give the keys to a 19-year-old to drive the machine. Good morning, everybody. Get the F out because it is here. It's just the tease. It's like the appetizer. Maybe not Thursday is the appetizer. It's like the pre-appetizer. But college football is back. Football is back. High school football going on. Colorado plays. That always rustles the jimmies. But football is here. Red Out Week continues. This is a big day on the Zone because all the hosts on the Zone are going to get together. We're going to dine together. We're kind of like ships passing in the night. We don't see a lot of each other. Like I haven't seen the afternoon guys. I mean, stuff has probably happened in their life. I have no idea.
Well, you were out of town, and we had an all-company meeting. You could have seen them then.
Yeah.
We have meetings sometimes.
You didn't miss anything.
But, like John and Josh are not here at 7 in the morning to start prepping for the show. So we don't, other than Connor and Josh, we don't see a lot of the, other shows. I got to go to Warner Park last night to see Nick Grimm.
Oh, Nick Grimm's at Warner Park now.
Nick and his girlfriend were at Warner Park last night. They were a couple of rows up from the field next to the St. Paul dugout.
He is just Johnny Baseball right now.
Well, he took a picture of Connor because Connor was the on-field MC last night. And I was like, where is he sitting? So I didn't see the picture until like the 8th inning. And I'm like, there's not a chance that he's still here. So I got the old binoculars out. It was the official score
found
last night, and I was like, Nick Grimm and his girlfriend are still at the game. Good. That is a baseball man through and through.
Is it the girlfriend's influence on him? Because all of a sudden he is being a regular attendee of baseball games this summer.
Became a sports guy.
Yeah. Good for
Mr.
him.
Baseball.
He did that on his own.
That's good.
The baseball part, but she has helped that process as well. So they're full on baseball.
She doesn't oppose to it. So that's a good thing.
She's a Yankees fan.
So part of Red Out Week is we're all together. We'd love to see you today. The Connor Happer Show and USC will be out at Oscars, 173rd-ish in the center. We'll be there. Everybody on air will be there for a roundtable, in-depth discussion, debating 7-5, 8-4.
Yeah.
Which person on the zone will go 9-3? We will do that between noon and 1. So come have a nooner with us.
Yes.
Just bring 5 of your friends because we got 5.
And
it'd be very awkward. Like, I don't know if you've gotten into those situations, Nick. I'm not sure about your lifestyle and that you need to move to the white flight suburbs of Omaha. But, I mean, you got to have the right numbers because it can get awkward.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
People can share. It's okay.
Some people want to score a hat trick. I'm like, I want 4.
People start looking around. Who's the odd person out? Who do they lump onto?
Sitting in the corner.
It can get kind of awkward. Then you feel like you're being judged.
What the hell's wrong with your mustache? I just noticed something.
So
what the?
I don't.
This might be the start of something really magical.
It's not a.
I'm listening.
Here's the problem, guys.
I'm all ears.
Did you make a mistake because your beard is not as scruffy?
No, so I
fluffy?
did. I trimmed down the beard a little bit.
Looks good.
And so when I do this, I don't know what it is. Everything from my side to the bottom is it's white now. I mean, 45 years old. The mustache doesn't.
Nebraska.
The mustache doesn't. It's not white.
That could be a fan. People watching on 1620 The Zone TV. That could be a fantastic mustache.
Oh, everybody!
It's darker than
everybody.
Your
Do
beard.
it, Nick. Yes, everybody thinks.
Ditka.
No, we've had a couple comments already in the past couple of weeks. They're calling me Sergeant Handley and Sheriff Handley because it's seriously
Remember
not
Major
a
Dad?
mustache. It's the only part of my facial hair anymore that maintains color.
Right.
I like it.
I want to do it side by side.
It's really good.
This is all white.
I just
This is
looked
all
at you.
silver.
I was like, what looks different? We might.
Yeah,
be,
I like it.
I trimmed everything,
Yeah.
including the mustache, down. Yet the mustache holds color. Everything else is just white, so it looks like I have a mustache.
Didn't Jeff Fisher do that? Had the kind of the white scruff and
I
then the
need to talk
mustache
to
back
Ryan
in the
Day.
day?
But I need to talk to Ryan Day. Start evening it all out with some color.
No, because then it'll look weird.
Yeah,
I like this.
I know. It kind of freaked my wife out last night too. She's not a fan of the mustache.
Yeah,
and I said, feel this. This is all the same.
If it was good enough for Jordan Westerkamp, it's good enough for Nick Handley.
I was touching my face.
Yeah, I think your camera boinked out there for a bit. All right, we are ready to roll on a Thursday. We are Corey Dixon days away from the start of the season around here, but we do have college football tonight. We might not have very many games where it's FBS on FBS crime, but Colorado plays. Minnesota is going to row the boat tonight. Their state fair game at home against Mac Brown and the North Carolina Tar Heels. So football is here because of the weather in the area. A little bit later tonight here in the Omaha area, there are some high school football games that have been moved up to 4 o'clock.
Oh, it can be warm.
So we'll have afternoon. I know, that came up yesterday. So in one of those games,
be muggy too.
Our kickoff on the CW is Gretna Elkhorn out at Gretna. And that game is going to be on at 4. It'll be taped delayed on 7 right after Steve Harvey gets off the air.
That's just
and
he's not kidding.
And the Family Feud, which is like one of the top programs in Omaha.
It was in my grandpa's obituary. They love that show.
That is so Midwest.
Love it.
But it'll be live. It'll be taped delayed at 7, but on the CW website, it'll be streamed at 4. That came up of it has been very, very warm. And here in the state of Nebraska, they have this, the wet bulb technology that tells athletic trainers if it's safe or not to practice.
Right.
And somebody brought up yesterday on our little conference call to determine, all the moving parts of a TV game is what if we get to 4 o'clock and it's
too
unplayable?
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
tomorrow's going to be gorgeous.
Yeah.
Could have a noon game.
They have to bang the game because of humidity and because of the wet bulb. That would be a first.
So last year, the opener on a Thursday, there were some games got moved to 8 because it was so hot around here.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, it was
Mother Nature. Why does she understand? We've waited so long for football do not mess with our football.
We had
You
all
know what?
damn week.
Mess up like Tuesday and Wednesday, but leave Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday alone.
Even by hours. I mean, that's the thing because of the storms rolling, because as you know, in the meteorological world, that a cold front is coming in.
Yes.
Why
A
couldn't
blue
that have come
line
in
with
last
blue
night?
teeth.
Yeah.
We could have had that last night. We'd sacrifice a couple hours of sleep for that.
But like the big Omaha, North Omaha, West Side game over at West Side got moved to 4 o'clock. But the Nebraska game is still on against UTEP, and we are
confirmed.
ready to roll again. We'll be at Oscars today at noon. Welcome in, everybody. We are off and running. We have lots to discuss. We will talk about Colorado because I'm a Colorado fan tonight. It's not just because of my checkbook. I am a Colorado fan tonight.
Gary Sharp, a Colorado fan.
I
just
like
sounds
hype.
weird.
I like hype. You know Zach, the Nebraska hype man?
Yes.
Good dude.
Shout out, Zach.
I want Colorado to be 1-0. I want Nebraska to be 1-0. I don't want to have any drama. I mean, Colorado is born to drama. I mean, you're on the eve of the start of your season and a pretty important season in Boulder. And your head football coach is fighting with a guy that has big ears, bald head, and a microphone who makes everything personal if you're not in the SEC.
Yes, very true.
That is on the eve of the season. So at some point, I think later today, Colorado's actually going to have to play football, and they're going to have to focus on football as they play North Dakota State.
Go Bison.
But I am a Colorado fan for today. You can put that down. I am rooting for Colorado to win, be 1-0. They are about a 9.5, 10.5 point favorite. North Dakota State, which everybody doesn't want to play North Dakota State because they had that run of where they were beating FBS teams. They are 6-0 as a underdog against FBS teams since 2010. So straight up as an underdog, straight up. If you are thinking that North Dakota State will pull off an upset tonight out in Boulder,
I think in a perfect world, you'd love to see both Nebraska and Colorado. And again, we still got to see what Nebraska and UTEP give us too. But not to jump ahead, because this is this happens every year. We especially on this day. Now this time last year we were getting ready for it was game day on that Thursday with Nebraska Minnesota. But I feel like we wait so long, and then once it starts, we get to that point of like, oh my God, where did the season go? So I'm not trying to jump ahead to week 2 already. I want to savor all this, and I love the opening Thursday night. I always do. There's always a game or two. There's always something that kind of goes maybe either a bit to the edge, like remember Minnesota, South Dakota State, the year that Minnesota won 11 games. South Dakota State had every opportunity to win that football game. So there's usually some Thursday drama that we will get from time to time. But I do think, yes, if we're looking for everything about next weekend's Nebraska-Colorado game, both teams come in at 1-0. So you have all of that going on. But I was it someone in the stream that brought this up yesterday? But if Colorado were to lose tonight, and then if Nebraska were to then also beat them the following week, and you had a chance to put Colorado at 0-2 from the start.
Who doesn't sign up for
the
that?
people who embrace drama?
That's what happened here last year.
Imagine what that would be like in Boulder.
I only care about Colorado football for 2 weeks. Okay, I care about them tonight. I care about them next Saturday. After that, I could care less. You know what? You haven't won more than 5 games since 2016. I know things haven't been good around here, but
I can find you a game to root against them.
All right. But
we got to be we got to be truthful.
I care about Colorado for the first 2 weeks.
We're
After
fair and
that,
balanced.
do what you got to do. Okay? Just get me to the 6 wins, which I think you will get to, because I would hate to lose out on that. But after next week, I'm not going to emotionally get tied into Colorado. I will watch from afar because I do slow down when I drive by on the interstate and you see wrecks. I slow down to see, like, first of all, anybody injured, and then actually what happened. So I'll do that. But in terms of caring about Colorado football, you got me for 2 weeks. Then after that, you're on your own. So I care about you tonight, and I would like you to beat North Dakota State.
Yeah, can I say this as well? And this seems that it would be also maybe not the most popular thought for tonight. Still like to see good football players. Shedeur Sanders is a very good football player. I'd like to, just
breaking news. Nick has gone out on an island. Shedeur Sanders,
if you didn't know,
huge deal with Nike yesterday, is a good player.
He's a good player.
Whoa.
I want it, but I actually I do enjoy, even if it's a team that I despise, I do. If you can play, you can play. And especially when you're showcasing the sport tonight, it's getting. I mean, we get a full allotment of games tonight. I enjoy that. Nobody is saying like, "Hey, I actually looking forward to watching that game." I feel like everybody's talking about, "Yeah, I'm going to make sure I'm in front of my TV at 7:00 to watch that game tonight."
There'll be a lot of people around here watching that game.
Yes, they will.
I think because it's Dion, because it's Colorado.
Yeah, you're scouting.
There will be it will do well nationally. I mean, ESPN is smart, even though they aren't. They haven't dropped to their knees this year.
Right.
They're at least like
that's true.
They're like in a fake spike. Drop a knee, run out the clock motion with Colorado. They're smart. They convinced Colorado to move that game to a Thursday night. I mean, Colorado's playing an FCS team.
Yeah.
All due respect to North Dakota State, they are one of the finest FCS teams. But you have an FCS team that got moved to Thursday night. ESPN's smart. It's Colorado. People will tune in because some people are attracted to drama. People like to like a car wreck.
Yes.
Some people are in the cult of Dion, so they will watch him. And they just make sure that he wins. Doesn't matter if Colorado wins. They just want Dion to win.
Right.
Oh, that game will do really well.
It will.
And it'll, especially around here where a lot of people will watch, and I will be rooting for Colorado. So you got me for 2 weeks,
There's
Colorado. After that,
did you get to see
like
you
a fat kid in dodgeball, I'm out.
Did you get to see you at 10 or 9.5?
9.5.
Okay.
And I do think that Colorado will cover. It's not.
You have convinced me of that.
It could still be a competitive game, too.
Smash versus Flash.
Ooh. I like
Look at that marketing.
I'm also trying to figure out what's going to be on what are my quad box options going to be if I'm watching the Colorado game, because you got Lindenwood, Kansas is on Plus.
I know.
That sounds like a buy game in basketball.
It does.
They bought out Lindenwood to come to Allen Fieldhouse and get throttled.
I'll enjoy it.
Instead, they're going to play. They're going to play at the Sporting KC Stadium.
Who's the
better concessions?
Who's the team? I swear Kansas always opens up in an exhibition. I thought it started with an L too, but now I'm just
Fort Hays State.
Washburn.
Washburn.
Thank
Pitt
you,
State.
Washburn. It doesn't start with an L apparently. Murray State is SEC network. So again, I'm trying to get an idea. These are all 7:00 games. I'm trying to get an idea of what the quad box is going to look like.
Hey, I love that Mizzou complains that people aren't buying tickets to come to their stadium. Don't play Murray State.
Go Murray State. Let's go Racers.
That'd be a good basketball game. You've been there.
Yeah. Murray State, Steve Prohm is back there.
Actually, those two cities would
be
very similar.
Nebraska plays Murray State this year.
Yeah, we've seen how their slate looks. That gives you an idea.
Is that the marquee matchup?
Murray State obviously isn't what they used to be, but this is I got to mention this, fellas, because this is how much I'm excited not only about Saturday but just college football in general.
Life.
I stuck around for almost 3/4 of Mike Schaefer's Twitch game last night with UTEP and Nebraska.
Well, how'd it go? Did he win?
I got a little worried. I was happy to see what the final score was. It got away from UTEP, but man, they were gashing Nebraska in some big moments there. Typical first half, but you'd see Dylan was making some freshman mistakes, but in the end, Nebraska pulled away. But
congrats, Shafe.
I at one time, Jenny goes, "What are you doing?" Don't worry about it. I didn't even know how to
voyeur of a friend.
Yeah, I didn't even know how to explain that.
COVID. Remember, we watched video games.
Yeah. I said, this was the best way I could say. I go, oh, this is just a simulation of the game on Saturday,
which is true.
And I said we might talk about it tomorrow,
and we have.
I don't know. At one point, I did see there were quite a few viewers on this one, so. I was part of you. I was part of your
voyeurism's on the rise.
Part of that group, and you know what? I thought I'd be ashamed to admit it. I'm not. It was kind of fun.
I would have watched.
One of the greatest sports includes that, and also the fact that as we begin in earnest college football tonight, that I can pick my favorite player name.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have. By the way, I have a candidate.
Booty?
There is a game tonight that is a great candidate for a sickos game because you have to go to True TV to watch it. Sacramento State and San Jose State.
And that's kicking off at 9.
But
I would watch.
Keep in mind, so there's a prop out there.
It's on HBO Max too.
Yeah,
it's on
part
Max.
of the family.
Oh my god!
College football, man, that's what our life. We are ready to roll.
Ready to roll.
Better than the Pac-12.
There is a prop out there on FanDuel of FCS wins this weekend, and it's at 6.5.
Okay.
So you have South Dakota State that's playing at Oklahoma State, but Gundy has been good in those games, so he doesn't like overlook them. But South Dakota State is an older team, defending champions of FCS. I think they have 28 seniors. Their really good quarterback is back. They're really well coached, so
I might go with them.
Game might be a little bit tighter.
Playing up in Brookings,
but you have 6.5 is the FCS wins in week 1. And then, like the game we just talked about in Boulder tonight, is FCS versus FBS. That's the thing about the Thursday night is, like last year, the Nebraska-Minnesota game was intriguing because it was a conference game. And I like that Minnesota, for the 12th straight year, which, by the way, they're opening at home, playing North Carolina. So it's Big Ten versus ACC. But of the 21 games tonight, I think only 2 are FBS on FBS.
Yeah, because you got North Carolina, Minnesota. Gosh, what else do we have?
Just look at it this way. It's better than the football that was on a month ago.
Exactly. But it's
Well,
also
very true, yeah.
it's also a weekend we start where the sport is too big to fail. It's America's game, the sport of football, that is, because the rest of the country will join us next week when the NFL starts, is that I can watch South Alabama this year and I can root for my favorite name player of the year.
USA.
Fluff Bothwell. I hope.
Oh, yeah.
If Fluff,
Please tell me he's a punter.
If Fluff, no, he's a skill guy.
Ooh.
If Fluff Bothwell from South Alabama has a Panini trading card, I will buy it. That is my name and player to watch this season is Fluff Bothwell from South Alabama.
What is his real name?
Fluff.
Short for Fluffy.
Is it shortened for Fluffer?
No, you sometimes some families you're born into, you look like a fluff when you come out. And so we were talking about naming kids the other day. Like, I don't think you should name the kid until it comes out.
That's fair.
And then it should be the first thing that pops in your mind. Like if
Oh
you
my
go
God.
if you go, ugh, that's what the kid's name should be. Ugh.
Do you know I didn't say it out loud, but I gave a WTF. Because
All right.
the thing came out in like a ball. All I saw was the head. I didn't think it had limbs. And then I was like, Jesus. You know what? It was Jesus.
Jesus
Could
Handley.
have been Jesus.
It probably would have been better to say Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus.
Probably, fight
Well,
fight when you get to school.
Could have went to Big Lebowski. He was the Jesus.
Jesus Handley.
Or Samuel Jackson in Die Hard with a
You
Vengeance.
said it, man.
Do I look Puerto Rican to you?
Nobody S with the Jesus.
All right, so clear your calendar now. Football is here. We have plenty to talk about and more on North Dakota State and Colorado. Wonder if we'll see Cole Payton tonight. There are not as many Nebraska products that play in Fargo as there used to be when Craig Bowl was there. But there are still, I think there are 5 on the roster. So Cam Miller, not a bad quarterback for North Dakota State. Cole Payton from Omaha West Side is the backup who has gotten a cup of coffee here or there. Seems like whenever he's in the game, the offense moves. We'll see if they utilize him tonight in the game out in Boulder. So we'll get more into that because there's a lot of stuff with Colorado. Sanders family had an interesting day yesterday. Why are we sparring with Paul Feinbaum?
Because he can't help himself.
Why?
They can't help themselves.
They all can't help themselves.
Yeah.
And then they had the story about after they got beat by Oregon, they turned Oregon into the Pac-12 because they thought Oregon had accessed their practice film.
Yeah.
And then somebody said, no, that wasn't the case. Like in the Colorado family.
Mm-hmm. And was it Shiloh when the Feinbaum clip was earlier this week that immediately had tweeted and said something about how you clearly haven't watched. I can't remember exactly even what he said as far as his criticism. It was kind of mild from a Shiloh Sanders standpoint, but yeah, like yesterday, it's almost if Deion goes in thinking, all right, I'm assuming, because I still think Deion's a very smart man. You weren't as good as what Deion was as a football player without the ability to anticipate both physically and mentally when it comes to things. You knew you were going to be asked about the Feinbaum stuff just because it was everywhere on Tuesday. I just feel like, hey, I'm not gonna fall for that. And then all of a sudden, that first word of rebuttal comes out, and then he just can't stop the train. Because then his sons take their cue off dad. And as long as he's letting it fly, they feel emboldened to do the same thing. And it comes down to that. They just can't help themselves.
Better if Colorado rolls for next week. One win, but if they roll, it's even better for next
they'll
week.
be talking a lot. There'll be a lot of talking.
That's
I smell
the
what
hype,
you're cooking.
The hype.
I get it.
All right, the lineup brought to you by the roofers of John Higgins Weather Guard. Sarah Baker Hansen will stop by with tailgating tips that you should not bring a salad to a tailgate.
Yeah.
Not even a Midwest salad.
And then to blame your
drink of
wife on that,
choice.
too? To blame your
Yeah.
wife, to throw your wife under the bus on that one?
Sip will join us coming up at 9:30. Brandon Vogel back from covering Nebraska volleyball, getting ready for the season. They got great stuff, by the way. It's been a banger of a week on counterread.com. He'll join us 9:30, and then Brian Edwards at 9:45 with picks to get you ready. You heard in the open, so Glenn Thomas last night talked about they've given the keys to the 19-year-old to drive the car. Remember the first time that your parents gave you like the keys and you were solo to drive like one of their cars?
Yeah.
Mine was a Ford Mustang stick shift.
Oh,
nice.
Well, I learned how to drive
Yeah.
in the St. Pius X church parking lot where nobody was around on a stick shift.
Good on you.
Because my dad wouldn't let me.
still drive
My
that?
dad would not let me drive his car at all. Now, this is not like a really nice Ford Mustang.
Was this one of the
This is-
80s models? Like the 88, 85?
That's true.
Yeah, late 80s.
Yeah. I think we had one of those, too. My brother Corey drove one of those.
My neighbor
Yeah,
had
it was
one.
it was okay.
They were all right at the time.
There was so my dad had a 66 Mustang Fastback, and that was tough looking.
Yeah.
Then they got into the 80s of the Mustangs where they just weren't as cool, and then they sort of reinvented them into a very cool sports car. So it was like the 80s is where the Mustang was probably at its lowest. It had found the floor in the 80s Mustang, and then it went right back up. Now it's an SUV.
It's still better than a U.
The evolution of a Mustang is pretty impressive. But yes, I know, because my brother had one of those too. And it was, compared to the other Mustangs that were out on the street, either the
Yeah.
older ones or newer ones, you're like, nothing against yours, because you still drove something way better than I did.
I just wanted a car. See, I was lucky enough. So the all gas, no brakes, handing the keys over to Raiola to run Nebraska football. There has been hesitancy in the past. Like Scott had the keys in his pocket, and Adrian was close. Like Adrian didn't have his hand in Scott's pocket on the keys, or Scott didn't have the keys out and goes, "Son, this is what you." No, he kept the keys in his pocket.
You can only drive this for an emergency,
Yeah.
or to school and work.
He let Adrian go sit in the car, but they didn't have the keys. They have given the keys to Dylan Raiola.
He had the passenger side brake.
So yeah, but I mean, I think the first time that we drove a car solo after you get your learner's permit or your driver's license, like you're like, okay, here we go.
Yep.
Here we go.
You usually have a couple buddies with you.
Yeah. You know, maybe you fire it up in the driveway and you punch it a little bit and make
That's
a
real.
noise.
Yep.
And then you maybe do a burnout.
Then you got to go somewhere where you know you're going to be seen, regardless of the car you're driving, so people can see that you're driving without your folks.
The grocery
Now-
store.
Now the
Yeah,
worst thing
that would work.
The worst thing is if you have to give the keys back. They're like, here you go, we bought you a car, and you don't want to give the keys back, or say, hey, can you call State Farm for me? We had a little incident.
Yeah. So a lot of people that were in my class will never forget the season, actually the school opener, the debut of Millard West football on game day. I remember it for different reasons because my parents had just gotten a Camry. My mom thought, hey, this is a big day for you. You can drive it to Buell.
Oh,
and so
this seems like you're taking us down a path that's going to have a bad ending.
Well, it didn't even go down a path, Gary, because as I got in the car and I had a buddy with me, we're getting ready to drive to Buell. My brother's car was parked next to it. As I'm backing out, I rubbed right up against it and put some pretty good paint on their brand new Camry. I was never allowed to drive that ever again. It was back to the Wally wagon. Yeah. So I was already off to a bad start. I should have known Randy, Stella, and Kent Keith would run all over us that night because it was a bad omen that night. Ironically, a Thursday night game too.
We'll talk more about a couple of things that Glenn.
So
Thomas
hopefully
said
Dylan does
yesterday.
better than that.
Well, like, would that be the equivalent of your first snap? You trip over the
Yeah.
Ben Scott's foot.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't hurt anybody. Just rubbing a little paint.
You fall down.
Yeah.
The ball pops in the air.
Yeah.
And Maurice Westmoreland for UTEP catches it and runs it the other way.
Ooh, I don't know if it's that bad.
And that's the first touchdown for UTEP is a fat guy.
If that's the only one.
Pick in the air and he scores.
Because like that, I thought, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world. I feel this is awful. I'm so mad. My parents are going to kill me. And it turned out to be fine. as long as that would be the end result too, like, oh, that wasn't a good end or beginning, but then he ends and finishes fine and everything's fine, then okay. Then I think the two are comparable.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, the keys have been handed over.
Mhm.
He's firmly got the keys.
He said buckle up. It's gonna be a fun ride. And then the laugh.
Was that
too.
a dig at Sip?
No, you know what I think that was.
I thought it was that Russell Wilson.
No, I think it was
because he
just
laughed
as
pretty good.
he's a smart kid. He's a marketer. He would like to have an endorsement deal with the Nebraska DOT, where he's the spokesman for
That's a
click it
great
or ticket.
idea.
Yeah. I feel
anti-Jeff
that
Sims.
quote for all of everybody getting hyped between tomorrow and Saturday, that quote, buckle up, it's going to be a fun ride, needs to be just part of everything.
Now there are some
and then the laugh afterwards.
To be honest, to be fair here, the other side, there are some things that he has said that if you were keeping receipts and the 1 or 2 games where things don't go well, you would bring that back up.
Yeah.
Like UTEP goes up 7-0 on Saturday, and they show like a picture of the miner that's got a seatbelt.
Right. He's buckled in.
Or he says like, oh, I drive without a seatbelt.
You got to buckle up in Texas.
Yeah, it could be.
But there is all gas, no brakes with a quarterback, and that's the way to do it. There is no easing into this season.
Mhm.
And speaking of this season, something we'll discuss throughout the day is it's the year 2, right?
Yeah.
Year 2 of Matt Rule?
Yeah. Last time I checked.
Let's get rid of that phrase.
Year 2.
I'm ready to get rid of the year 2 Matt Rule phrase.
Oh,
because
yeah,
I don't think I don't think it applies here. All right. There was a guy in Minnesota that wanted week 0.
Yeah. Year 0. Yeah.
This is year 2. What did I say? Week 0? Year 0?
Yeah.
I think we need to get rid of year 2. Just my personal opinion as Matt Rule enters year number 2. All right, 6:38, off and running, ready to roll on a Thursday morning. Again, Corey Dixon. God dang it, John Safi screwed over Corey Dixon in Nebraska. We are Corey Dixon days away. Jeff Krejci days. That's for all of some of our older listeners out in Schuyler, former walk-on.
I knew
he wore number 2, TJ Hollowell.
I knew his nephew very
TJ
well.
Hollowell, who's now on Nebraska's staff.
Tanner?
Tanner.
I thought we'd go with Adrian, but apparently not.
You got to save it.
It's too obvious.
A little bit later.
He works with us.
Are we going to do this every hour?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Leading up. And then tomorrow we'll just do a bunch of the ones.
Then well done on Corey Dixon.
Thunder Collins, Jordan Westerkamp.
I thought Thunder was number 1.
Greatest running back ever.
Oh,
in Nebraska
tomorrow.
runs
Oh,
for-
yeah. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Just for many reasons, but
I use Corey Dixon because
that's a good poll.
I use Corey Dixon because I still, to this day, what is that? I can do the math. About 30 years later, have never seen the illegal block. Just me. Maybe I'm missing something. Little grainy vision. I've never
didn't
seen
have high
the
def.
illegal block that was called to bring back a 71-yard punt return that changed that game. And John Safi got in the way. One of the better punt returners in the history of Nebraska football, Corey Dixon.
Yeah, people forget too. I mean, the receivers just get a lot of love in that offense too. So, but number 2, and I think even this is going to be a very random memory of him because remember I told you because it was just so drivable. The one road game we always went to was in Kansas. I think he had a really good game.
Many did there.
93? Would that have been June Handley 93?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I think it was 93. I'm going to have to go back and look at the box score, but for some reason I remember Corey Dixon having a really good game.
And then he thought he was in Lincoln after the last play, which is why he wasn't in on the 2-point conversion.
Yeah. Was that also Chip Hillary?
No, that was Ashiki Preston.
Of course it was.
You were there.
I paid more attention to Nebraska than I was.
Mickey Joseph, Adrian Martinez. Yeah, we go on and on. There's some pretty significant guys that have worn number 2 at Nebraska.
Mm-hmm. Caleb Tanner, very good. I just like that in my generation, Corey Dixon would be old school.
Hey,
so that was a good one.
And before we go to break here, Caleb Tanner should be smoking that cigar today. Maybe the same cigar that he lit up in the Iowa locker room. Because Caleb Tanner, when that was tweeted out, and Caleb Tanner tweeted out, there was a person, his name is Casey, played quarterback at UNK. Casey Samuelson?
I could say Casey. I'm like, Casey Thompson's at UNK
No.
now? Oh, my
Casey
God.
Samuelson? People know. If you know, you know. Because he would go under the Twitter handle of Hawks Chronicles.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I don't know if he ever got at you.
Uh-uh.
He came hard after us.
No.
We would go back at him. And a lot of people did.
Oh, I watched
Like at the
a lot,
station?
yeah.
He finally crossed the line with Iowa fans.
Yeah.
Because one of them and he is off of the Twitter.
Oh.
His account has been suspended.
Oh. No, that was actually kind of fun. I remember watching him get into it with the likes of you and other members of the media, and I would just kind of sit back and enjoy that.
Yeah.
Those were always fun.
Yeah, he was. He made a lot of promises between Nebraska and Iowa. So yesterday was his day. But Caleb Tanner tweeted that out, and he went at him. And so he DM'd Caleb Tanner, and he's like, "I hope you get lung cancer."
What?
Yeah,
That's not nice.
Wow.
yeah. Oh, and that was kind of light. I've heard stories of Nebraska fans, like would mention, "Hey, Lawrence Phillips was the greatest running back in Nebraska," and this guy would be like, "Oh, I guess you're a wife beater as well."
Yeah, he was that guy.
So he gone. It's a win. You know what? Nebraska and Iowa fans shaking hands today, all because of a good Iowa account that said, enough is enough.
Yeah. Wow. That's really, he said that to Caleb Tanner?
So he's never tweeted you.
No. I remember seeing some of the things that were said.
He came hard. He came hard, and we went hard back at him.
Yeah. As one should.
At least it wasn't like Penn's Chronicles that was like, "Yeah, you guys want to fight me? Here's where I am." Oh well, okay, we'll be there in a bit.
Respect. Was he there?
Leave that to another day.
Okay.
Maybe it'll be on the 25th anniversary show.
Hey, there you go.
All right, there's Jimmy. There's Nick. I'm Gary. Off and running, ready to roll ahead of the Doc Sandler Invitational on 1620 The Zone. Where do you think Doc Sadler will be on Saturday? Shouldn't they have him at the game?
At the Nebraska game?
Shouldn't he be at midfield
Honorary
at kickoff?
captain?
Yes.
Yeah, because of UTEP. Yeah. Do you think he's still rooting for UTEP in this matter, or do you think he's had good enough memories in Nebraska?
I mean, he's beloved in Lincoln. He's one of the rare guys that got fired,
right?
Because he wasn't very good.
And they came back, and people were excited,
and people were. I mean, it docked. No big deal. And you're going to be here for the UTEP Invitational, Coach? No big deal.
And then every moment that year where the defense was actually a part of any success, everyone's like, well, it's because of Doc's defense. Quickly, how we forget that Doc did not have a good run as a head coach.
One of my many Doc Sadler stories that I have, the first time that Nebraska was going to Big Ten Media Days for basketball, the media complained to the guy that was in charge of like the moderator.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't understand Doc. True story. Like some of the long Big Ten basketball media, first time Nebraska's there, they couldn't understand Doc. And so they said to the moderator, what? And so Nebraska's session was like really short.
Can we see the transcript?
But Doc,
it's like Coach O.
Hey, Doc is one of the greatest gems in college athletics.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's
always very nice to me.
He's just real too. That's not an act. That's just how he is. He doesn't care. He's just a good old boy. I mean, if there's a definition of good old boy, Doc Sadler's the good old boy.
All right, so let's talk about Saturday's game. So Nebraska and UTEP, 27.5 point favorite for Nebraska, which now it's time to win.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different elements that are part of that. I think Nebraska needs a big start, and I would be very, very surprised if Nebraska looks slow and sloppy out of the gate. They are old enough that some of the game one issues, especially on the defensive side of the ball where schools have trouble tackling, Nebraska really didn't have trouble tackling last year. So when you say, man, they're going to try and get one-on-one matchups and they're going to make Nebraska defensive backs tackle in space, I'm not worried about that. I think Nebraska will tackle well. But I think Nebraska needs a big start. And I think it's important that Nebraska has a big splash in game one. And I'll give you a little history here. The year 2 of Matt Rule, which please, we got to get rid of that. We got to retire that. It's not year 2 of Matt Rule.
Still brought up a lot too.
Because year 2 actually was probably year 1.
Mm-hmm.
Just my opinion. I don't know how you feel. But year 2, first game, Temple against Vanderbilt. 37-7 Owls.
Mm-hmm.
Year 2, first game, Baylor against Abilene Christian. What are they, Jimmy?
Abilene Christian? This one I don't know.
Really?
They're the Christians.
Now I gotta look.
What kind of mascot would you have if you were the Christians? Just asking for a friend.
A nice person, a friar.
Would you just be you just be dressed normal, carrying around a Bible?
Short sleeve shirt and a tie.
Oh, they're the Wildcats.
Oh,
of course they are.
When in doubt,
hey,
Wildcats or Tigers?
Maybe someday a member of the Summit League.
Oh, Abilene Christian.
But
okay.
year 2, Matt Rule, Baylor beat Abilene Christian 55-27.
They let them score 27 points.
They did.
Fourth quarter.
I'm not going to run away from this, and I don't think you should as well for people that have realistic goals and high expectations of the season and want to see Nebraska look different, where you can leave the stadium and go, yeah, there's something there, and they look different, is you don't dance with a partner that is shorter than you, okay? When you're at the high school dance, it's the awkwardness of everybody separated and they're sitting on the side of the dance floor and you're starting to size up everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
You don't want to be stuck. Like if you're 6'4" and you're dancing with somebody that's 5'6".
Yeah, it's tough.
Okay. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. And you usually dance down to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It started getting a little bit lower back pain. Yeah.
So I know that was a really weird analogy.
No, I get it. I'm with you.
I think it's important for Nebraska to have a convincing opening statement, and I'm not going to run away from that. If Nebraska looks sloppy and there's things that we thought were not red flags in camp, all of a sudden the turnovers rear their ugly head again, I'm going to be very disappointed. I'm not a big red overreaction. I might hop on a podcast and just rant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect that to happen.
And I think even the head man would be a little bit disappointed if they did not have a convincing opening statement.
Right.
I think that's important. Good teams win, great teams cover. I do believe, I'll share my prediction for the roundtable later today, Nebraska will cover the 27.5. And I think that's a big deal when they do.
I think I would add this to how I think that they should look is you're playing to your strengths that we know are indeed strengths right now. Because I think for instance, obviously this is a defensive identity, but we also know that it's been an interchanging offensive line there at UTEP. So to me, that spells out, okay, they are going to put, whether it's Locklear or whoever the quarterback ends up being, McConnell, that person is under duress the entire time they drop back. The other part about it is everyone wants to see how Nebraska is going to be against the run. Okay, well, at some point, you're going to be facing a lot more stiff competition when it comes to the running game. So in this standpoint from the front seven, that group should stand out big time to where I do think there should be turnovers in this game. On the Nebraska side, Nebraska creating the turnovers. So defensively dominant is first and foremost what I want to see. I was making mention of this because I knew we were going to get in the conversation at some point about those first game expectations. So this is why I brought up the Twitch thing. As I'm watching this thing and I'm seeing these big plays by UTEP, again, this is a video game. Okay, I get that. But I found myself wondering, what would people think?
Did you do play-by-play?
Because I think it was like 14-13 at halftime and they were getting big chunk plays. What would people think if the defense was getting gouged a little bit in power? If the defense getting gouged a little bit in their third down situations? Yeah. Thinking about those things that plagued Nebraska last year on what was a very good defensive showing, but the one thing that we looked at, not being able to get off the field, especially when it mattered there in November, a lot of those different things against a team that clearly the advantage is on the defensive side for Nebraska in this matchup, but that none of that stuff is even showing up. If there's a big play for UTEP, it was more of a fluke than anything. So eyeballs will tell you that story. I think turnovers will also tell you that story. More than anything, though, offensively, because this is where I'm actually, I think you can draw a little bit out of this. Now, a lot of people are going to make a lot about Maurice Westmoreland. Okay, that's fine. I don't know how many people really even watched him play last year. I know I didn't. I just know the numbers. Okay. So
they lost their best defensive player as a fourth round pick in the NFL draft. So.
Yes. And also, if you look at what that team is going to try to do defensively, because there's similarities in their alignment that Nebraska sees, I do think the offense from to your point about, being sloppy first game, things like that, even though that you have a new quarterback, this is where I say, okay, offensive line, you have been experienced. That needs to show right away.
I want to go back to something you said. You said people are concerned that UTEP's going to be able to run the ball.
No.
Oh, I was going to say because Nebraska's going to. Well, I think they're going to throw a ton. UTEP will, that quick game passing.
Yes,
tempo, La Tech.
You got a whole offensive line. That's their first start, and it's at Memorial Stadium against that defensive line. They're not running football.
No, I think the narrative around Nebraska defensively right now is, okay, they were so good at stopping the run. Then you got into November where maybe they wore down a little bit.
Okay,
and
so
we're
just talking about one game.
Yeah,
we're talking about the opponent we're playing on Saturday.
Right, that's where I say
valid concerns. That's later in the year. I'm talking about Saturday.
So basically, what I'm watching is this defense dominating every aspect of it, from pressure to being able to shut down any type of running game. That shows, because that's the advantage that Nebraska has.
And so people around here, listen. If your eyeballs tell you and your ears tell you that the vibe is different, okay, it feels different. But if you want to be wait and see, I'm not opposed to that, because there are still things about this program, might be a little bit of tease of discussion later on the roundtable, that I am on wait and see. But if Nebraska is truly turning the corner and they're different, it doesn't matter about who they're playing. It's all about them. They're playing a team that this is a great time to get them. There are so many new things about UTEP. I think they made a good hire, and he knows how to coach football, especially offensive football. And in that conference where you could win 45-42, but you're getting him the first game out of the box. Respect UTEP. They got some guys. I mean, they got a punt returner they're going to have to keep an eye on. They got a really good pass catcher. But the bottom line is, if Nebraska is better and Nebraska's headed in the right direction, and they're playing a team that blew out their staff, brought a bunch of Austin Peers in, and try and integrate them in the first game after a 3-win season, you don't dance with them.
Right.
All right? You do yourself well, and you play extremely well on opening day, and you make a statement. And I think it's important for Nebraska to make an impression. All right? 1, win the football game. 2, but do it in a manner where you go, yeah, they might have something there.
Yeah.
Because it's time to start winning. It's not time to start screwing around. And you know what? Oh, God, thank God we won, because you know what? Frost would have lost this game. If you're a real football program and you believe all the work you put in and what you have said,
right,
this is one of those games to open up the season, is that in the third quarter, the rest of the country, when they flash the score in their stadiums, are going, oh boy, there goes Nebraska. That friggin' rule.
Yep.
That friggin' rule is going to be working at Wally's World selling Camrys by Monday. So that's why I think it's important for Nebraska to have a big splash, to have a convincing opening statement. Does it mean anything for next week? Well, who knows? It's week by week.
It just feels good.
The first game, the team you're playing, how you feel about your team, and the ingredients in the blueprint you have, cover the 27.5 boys.
Well, and that's part of the process, right?
41 to 10.
And in the past, that's been the problem is Nebraska's been a big favorite against the South Alabamas and the Northern Illinois and the North Dakotas and the Georgia Southerns, and they've lost, or they have danced with them.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, hey, they scored 35. They won 35-11, kind of a quirky game, but hey, they won. But did you feel good about it?
Right. And this perfect example is that South Alabama game. There were so many things about that game. You walked away from it and not feeling like you truly had any grasp of what this team was going to be. Then you had one half against Colorado, and you're thinking, okay, they just needed another. But then we saw how that game ended in the second half. So, yeah, to what you're saying there, this is where I think people that have been burned by this program in the past, it's hard. And I mentioned this even with quarterback play, where it's okay to have expectations right out of the gate. Is a game like this, where I know there's not always the most confidence when it comes to the offensive line, for instance. I think this is a game where you should expect Nebraska to be able to wear that group out, wear that defensive line out, even if they have a good pass rusher, to be able, based on what they've seen as well from a schematic standpoint, to be more familiar. But again, this experience, Glenn Thomas said something last night that I think it goes a little bit unnoticed when talking about the offensive line, when people are reluctant to get in the offensive line. Look, there are depth issues at left tackle. We know that. But more than anything, when you've played this much football, there shouldn't be a lot of things that a defensive front is going to throw at you that's going to confuse you collectively as a group. And so, again, this is where I look at that group more than anything. The people like, really, you're going to expect this out of for the most part, a group that's been inconsistent? Yeah, I expect the offensive line to still be able to have dominance in this game. They should. I don't think there should be things that confuse them. There shouldn't be things that you're like, oh, clearly there was miscommunication there. I get it. It's the first game, but when you've played that much football together, I think those excuses, to me, it's exactly that. I think you need to hold them to a higher standard.
I think the guys in Lincoln that are running the show feel pretty good about this football team. I think they would be disappointed if it was choppy and it didn't look like, man, what did we do for the most of August to get ready for this game? It's important. It's important to make a big splash in game one. You win by 4 touchdowns, it's a nice victory.
Go deep on the first play.
And then
that's next week.
And in big spreads, Nebraska's had trouble covering. But if things are different, then this is different.
Yep.
That's what I keep saying. You can't just go, you can't sell me something, and then when I get a chance to see it, you under-deliver.
Yeah. That it looks very familiar in a bad way.
Because then the red flags I have on my wait and see list, they get deeper. And I'm like, okay, people just want Saturday, in my opinion, to see something different. Okay, they want to feel different.
They want to be happy.
They're kind of in, kind of out. Some are more in, and it's perfectly fine, whatever you choose. I'm not going to tell you how to be a fan. Everyone is smart enough to make their own decision, but you just want to, if you want it to be delivered to you.
Yeah.
If the head coach has said for 6 months, I feel really good about this football team, then the first time out of the gate, you want to be able to say, man, I feel real good about
Yeah.
that football team. That's how you come together.
Where you can say, yeah, I get it. It was UTEP, but it still looked different.
Yeah. Again, it doesn't matter who they're playing on Saturday.
You kick their ass.
It could be PTEU. You know, it could be IUPUI.
Ooh,
Saturday is about the guys that are in the home uniform.
Absolutely.
It's not about UTEP. It's all about Nebraska on Saturday. Next week, it's about Colorado and Nebraska.
Yeah.
But this week, it's all about Nebraska. They just happen to have $1.65 million to write on a big check that they deliver to UTEP, that UTEP's coming here to play. All right? There have been teams that you've written a big check to that have come and stolen your money, stolen your soul.
Yeah.
Let them take your money. But you know what? You're going to make more because, you do on Saturdays.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's the start of a process.
There you go. Feel like a little preacher man.
I don't know if I'm nervous now or excited.
Well, why be nervous?
I don't know. You got me convinced that maybe it won't happen.
I've been excited from day one about this thing.
I think they're going to roll Saturday.
We do this. We do in the offseason, like, I'm not going to drink the Kool-Aid. I want to believe the hype. Okay, I've been hitting the groin too many times. I can't have kids anymore. All right,
The God piece.
We have crossed the barrier of our fandom of whatever team across this great land that you root for. You open yourself up to the pain.
Yeah. Oh,
whether
100%.
the good or the bad,
Yeah.
you open yourself up, and it's back, and you open yourself up, and whatever happens, happens.
We just try to convince ourselves, as you get excited about it, that there is tangible reason to be excited as opposed to the hype.
But let me ask you, Jimmy, okay? Because I know how you feel about your team that you follow in KU. Do you feel good about Nebraska?
Absolutely.
Nick, do you feel good about Nebraska? Something is different. There's something cooking there. There's a vibe. That's my
more
opinion.
than Dylan. There's more to it than that.
Well, because you learned a lesson from the people in Boulder. When you put too much on one guy and you don't think about the other things, you know what? How does that work out?
Yeah.
All right. Jimmy's got an update coming up here in a little bit. A little bit later, Steve Sipple will stop by. Brandon Vogel, Brian Edwards on 1620 The Zone.
Opening night for Nebraska high school football is turning into opening afternoon because the theme of the summer and spring has been storms, and it's happening again. The forecast for severe weather this evening has some schools moving up their game times from the announced 7 o'clock start. Some of them Omaha North at Westside, Elkhorn at Gretna, Crete at Platteview. There'll be 4 p.m. starts. Elkhorn South Lincoln East is now 4:30, and then they'll have to pay attention to the bulb temperature and all that good stuff. So we'll see. Football will be played. We're happy. Life is good again. The Storm Chasers, well, life wasn't good last night at the old ballpark, unless you count the fact they got to play baseball. They fall to St. Paul 3-2, despite the presence of Nick Grimm in the ballpark. The thinking is that they would have played inspired ball with his presence. I guess they did not. They'll play again tonight at 6:35. Not sure if Nick will be there. UNK and Chadron State renew their football rivalry tonight in Chadron. The winner of tonight's game claims the Good Life Trophy. Took them a long time to come up with a name for that one. UNK and Chadron last played in 2020 when teams sought opponents after the COVID forced the cancellation of the D2 season. Before that, the programs had met since 2011, the Lopers' final season in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. The teams were familiar foes before that. Thursday will be the 73rd meeting of the series. Other local college games this weekend, not just the Huskers, Missouri S&T, wasn't that a band? At Wayne State. The Screaming Eagles of Minnesota State and Coach Hayden Fox are at Northwest Missouri State tonight at 7. Clark at Midland, 6:30 tomorrow. And Iowa Western at Georgia Military. I think the school, or just the entire military. Noon on Saturday. Josh Hodson very concerned about heat stroke. He has said so himself. Steelers fans may want to have heat stroke after Russell Wilson was named quarterback for the Steelers season opener at Atlanta. Well, you do with that what you will. And in baseball last night, Yordan Alvarez had 3 home runs, and rookie Spencer Arrighetti carried a no-hit bid into the 8th inning and struck out 11 as your Houston Astros routed the Philadelphia Phillies. Get some revenge from the 1980 NLCS, though the World Series did that a couple years ago. They beat them 10-0. Should beat them 30-0. Anyway, Arrighetti shut down the NL East leading Phillies through 7 innings, lost his no-hitter in the 8th inning when Bake McBride hit a home run or hit a single to reach an infield single.
The former Philadelphia Philly, Bake McBride.
Bake McBride.
Another great name.
Yeah.
Did you guys see they had COVID Appreciation Day at
the White Sox game?
Yeah, the White Sox game.
Like, remember when it'd be great if they started putting cardboard cutouts.
They should.
And for the first game of that doubleheader against the Rangers, they would have had more cardboard cutouts than they actually had people that were at the game. So the game started. It was a suspended game. Wasn't on the schedule. Your team is god awful. Even though they are playing the World Series champs who have not had a very good year. They, at first pitch, they counted 16 people in the ballpark.
Right.
By the top of the second inning, there were 57 people sitting at the White Sox-Rangers game yesterday.
That is a COVID
The
game.
PA guy the attendance today, 57. The White Sox, thank you for your support.
That's amazing. That truly is amazing. 16 for first pitch. That is a COVID. That's a bubble because all of the 16 would have been scouts and stuff from back in the day.
Yeah. And I imagine some of the people are just the unemployed. They got free tickets or paid to go to the game.
Yeah. Probably not a heavy group day, but yeah, anybody who actually paid, hey, you are diehard, and I feel for you because that's pain right there. That you
and then even more pain. So not only the White Sox get swept in their 103 losses.
That's correct.
Did you see how they lost in the nightcap?
The
Jankowski
unbelievable catch.
Unbelievable. You were if you see it, go find it.
Yeah,
Jankowski's catch.
He
Travis
literally
Jankowski
brought the game back in.
Yeah, you gasped. That'd be the best way to describe it. And that's how the White Sox game ended last night.
I thought maybe an arm would detach from his body because that's how his arm actually goes well over the wall. That is, sometimes you always wonder, would it have actually hit the top of the wall or the wall when you make one of those catches? This is clearly a home run that he brings back. It's pretty impressive.
Image. I watched Tony Saunders. Anyway, let's see. Justin Fields will back up Russell Wilson. I know this makes you happy. And
I don't really care.
Well, what you do care about is the Guardians beat the Royals to avoid a sweep and stay in first place.
Yeah.
So I think all is well for you.
The Fields thing, I mean, he could have started and fine. I really
he may
don't
get
care.
to start soon enough.
Yeah.
It was all right.
It was a very interesting back and forth depending on who you listen to. I was watching this last week on the NFL Network of their panel debating on who would start over. Would it be Russell Wilson or Justin Fields? And it was interesting enough. The majority thought Justin Fields would start. Now, I think the way Mike Tomlin's going to handle this too, knowing that he has a guy. It's almost kind of like bringing in a rookie. It's almost like Justin Fields is a rookie again, where Russell Wilson is got to essentially perform to keep his job, because at some point it seems inevitable that they will introduce Justin Fields into the starting lineup. It's just a matter of when. So I think for a team that I do not root for, and a guy that obviously I had some experience with when he was the quarterback at Chicago, I'm interested in how all that plays out, because Russell Wilson not having somebody pushing him in Denver, getting the money that he did and played some of his worst football ever, could having a still very young, electric type athlete at the position that a lot of people want to see play, especially if Russell Wilson struggles, does that do anything for Russell Wilson? Does that make him, the whole competition, sharpening everything about your game, does that at least make Russell Wilson back to form to where he's helping you win football games as opposed to not? Because I think at some point Justin Fields will, first sign of trouble, really. I mean, you guys know how Pittsburgh Steeler fans are too. They're going to be clamoring for Justin Fields.
Or Bubby Brister.
It's an interesting thing to number 6. It's an interesting thing to watch out there in Pittsburgh.
Some games for your quad box, Nick. You got Howard at Rutgers.
Sweet.
Okay, Western Carolina, NC State. New Hampshire
State
at
will
Central
cover.
Florida. Or did they have the spread on here? Yes, here it is, 32 and a half.
Well, Howard Rutgers would not be on my, if I'm watching the Colorado NDSU game, because that's a
Howard
BTN
Rutgers
game.
is at 5.
I know, but that's a BTN game. I'm talking about what's actually going to be my quad box options.
You could Illinois will cover tonight.
Central Connecticut at Central Michigan. The Chips 32-point favorites. Sam Pittman 48.5-point favorite against Arkansas Peanut Butter.
Yeah, go the over in that game.
Which one? The Arkansas
the total between Arkansas Pines Bluff and Arkansas is 57.
Yeah.
Go the over.
Oh yeah.
You got to play for tonight?
What's that?
You got to play for tonight?
A play for tonight. I'm not getting in any games tonight. I'm not.
Huh?
No.
Utah and Southern Utah. Most hated rivals
Utes,
there.
38.5. Take the Utes.
54.5 over. And then finally on True TV, Sacramento State, San Jose State. So Nick's not going to get much sleep tonight because you'll be dialed into that one on the True TV.
Just watch a game on Max.
Lots of games. Football's back. I love it. Best damn time of the year.
Thank you, Jimmy. In the Equitable Bank inbox, me mentioning that this is the Doc Sadler Invitational game between UTEP and Nebraska. Monty says, I didn't realize that he was employed by KU, working for Coach Self. So
they helped him lose weight down there.
Think about
he's had a couple stints at KU, right?
Think about Doc, which I love Doc Sadler,
and that's spot on. Doc.
He's a quirky fella who is a gem in college athletics, and probably Nebraska got lucky to get Doc Sadler. And I say that not because it's like Doc came in here and was a world beater and Nebraska was going to the NCAA tournament and all of that kind of stuff. But Doc Sadler does not enter the life of Nebraska basketball if it wasn't for Barry Collier being a late subtraction from Nebraska and going back to Butler. Because Barry Collier didn't leave until early August.
Yeah.
And so you're scrambling to find a coach. How many coaches, when school's about ready to start, are going to be like, what job in Nebraska looks great. You know who it looked good to? Doc Sadler. And so, you probably don't get
basketball.
But Fred loves Doc. Fred.
I think every coach.
Fred had him in Ames, then he had him back here in Nebraska, and then he went and worked out at OU. And he is a prominent person sitting right on the bench. Right
Doc.
there with Bill Self.
Yeah, I think every coach who has ever talked about, Doc, it's almost like, Doc. But
that actually is about how Bill would react about Doc. Who doesn't love Doc? He would come eat in the media meal with us when we'd have the Bill Self pressers. He's just a regular guy.
Dude,
he's just like one of the guys.
Doritos?
When he was I think he actually lives in a house in Lawrence. But when he was working for Porter Mosier a couple of years ago, he was living in a van outside of Lloyd Noble.
That's dangerous in Oklahoma.
No one's messing with Doc.
It was not your typical van down by the river.
No.
But it was one of those travel vans. That's what Doc was living in Norman.
They call those are they cargo vans? Is that what they call
Good times vans?
Was that like a Travato?
Yeah.
Like what they're
have the little curtains on.
Yeah, right.
The TV
they're
and the VCR
they're very
combo.
luxurious. I remember Jay Cutler rolling up to camp one time with one of those things. It was kind of a pimped out van. It's like, wow, you actually could be very comfortable there.
I watched Gary Anderson blow the NFC Championship in a van.
The former Wisconsin coach? No.
Now, we say all this about Doc. There was an individual that was not excited to have Doc around because Doc actually lost his job at Nebraska because somebody eliminated his job. It wasn't you got fired.
You work in radio?
Somebody said the special assistant to the head coach no longer exists at Nebraska. Fred, that job is not on a bottom line. Remove that person.
Was that a Trev decision?
I don't know. I know that was the position was eliminated.
So it wasn't really fired.
That would be my luck.
I don't know who said it.
It's downsizing.
Might have been a guy that called into the Hoiberg show. I don't know. But Doc, he could tell us about UTEP. He could tell us about Nebraska.
So
he's one of the rare guys that has been at both places.
He might be at the KU game tonight, then Nebraska UTEP on Saturday.
I mean,
we big college football
That's what we're
weekend
doing.
for Doc. It's
All
great.
the football.
I would love to have Doc back.
I need a game to go to tomorrow.
They should do, during a timeout, do an on-field recognition of Doc and the years of service and the defensive expertise of one Doc. Sadler.
And then the Killians. You know it's coming.
Well, yeah.
I know.
It is. Didn't
as of right now, by the way, the game day script in Lincoln, nothing like unusual for
Really?
Saturday's game.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Don't you get a copy of this thing?
I'm aware of it.
Okay.
He can reenact it.
Because you're on call.
They have some. They have some things that they're going to do, but nothing like out of the ordinary.
Not going to force the issue. Very businesslike.
No. I also have been told, and I think Rule kind of alluded to this, that they have tightened up the tunnel walk.
Okay.
And the timing.
I figured.
Because last year it just kind of went on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
So they've worked on the timing.
They played.
So I think that'll be a little bit crisper.
Well, now they know where to come out correctly and then do the weird, doing all that stuff too. That was year one thing. You got to know the proper path and all that stuff. And now with the new facility, they didn't start with the new facility and all that stuff. So yeah.
Steve says in the Equitable Bank inbox, Gary, you got some pull. A lot of the ticket websites did not have Nebraska moving sidelines.
Oh.
I'm having issues with Ticketmaster and the service fees.
You can only fight so many battles.
I do think that's a big deal. That's a random question for a Thursday.
Probably watch the Connor Stallions.
So it's a big deal. People when they buy tickets want to know what sideline.
Sure.
Yeah.
Nebraska changing sidelines this year.
They're in the shade now.
Mm-hmm.
Which will be important on Saturday. It'll be warm. It'll be nice, but it'll be warm. Really warm for the players, obviously.
Let's see. I'm on our friends' Tickets for Less right now. Let's see. I know this is awesome stuff.
On Huskers.com, it has Nebraska on the new sideline.
Oh yeah. One that I'm looking at also has the old setup. Has Nebraska on the other sideline. So yeah, that is actually a thing. Okay. Well, hopefully that'll be adjusted maybe either as we get up closer to kickoff or by next week.
Looks like if you want to go to the game, that sitting in the North Stadium would be your friend.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute here. Hold on here. Yeah. No, hold on. On Huskers.com, they still have Nebraska on the wrong sideline.
Yeah,
Nice.
because I'm looking at. I don't want to say it, but I'm looking at another one, and they also do. I think everybody does. I don't think anybody has it correct.
This also will be Saturday, the 25th anniversary of the Skyboxes.
Yeah.
The original Skyboxes at Memorial Stadium.
Debuted in that California game.
Here's you've heard me all year talking about the importance of winning for Nebraska in so many ways.
Yep.
There are some companies that when the Skybox opened up in 99, they did a 25-year contract.
Oh, wow.
Because they gave them if you made a commitment.
Yeah.
Now there's not a lot of them, but there are a few that if you made a 25-year commitment, the price would not be as large.
Yeah.
And so when this became a thing in Lincoln before the 99 season, they're like, got to get on it.
Yeah.
So this is, for some people, this is the last year of their 25-year commitment to owning a skybox at Memorial Stadium.
Do you think they paid all of that in advance?
Oh, yeah.
It's going to go up a little bit.
I know it's not cheap.
Yeah. Wow.
You can't rent a skybox on a game-by-game basis in Lincoln, can you?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Be a good place for a birthday party.
Now, I'm sure there are the only people that I've heard, like any of my friends or anything that have been in a skybox, is they've either known or somebody that they know works for the company or were guests of that company. Or there were certain people that weren't going to have their full allotment of people there. But I still think it's always occupied by whatever business or donor.
It'll be occupied Saturday.
The actual suite itself. So I don't think there is one that you can actually.
I do know somebody that
they should do that.
I knew somebody that owns a skybox that they were complaining during a golf event this summer that in the last 5 years, nobody from the athletic department has stopped in to say hello.
Really?
During the game?
Yeah.
That is actually surprising though, especially given who the most recent athletic director was.
Well, and here was my retort to him. I said, well, in the history of the skybox as an athletic director stopping by, that's usually not a good thing because remember, Nebraska used to have an athletic director that tried to calm the waters and went from skybox to skybox in 2003, just making sure that everybody was okay and that he was going to do the right thing. I said, it might not be a bad thing that nobody from the athletic department of significance has stopped in 5 years to grease your wheels.
Maybe that was one thing that every athletic director knows that when they get the job too. You don't do those things. You don't do things that this one guy did when he was the AD here at Nebraska. So even as much as you want to talk to them, there's other events that you can talk to these folks. Just don't do it during the game.
Have Herbie go say hi and call it good. Just wave.
Well, I said, oh, so you're gonna get rid of your skybox? And he was like, no.
It's like the whole, I'm not going to watch NFL football on Sunday. Hey guys, what are you doing for the game? You want to join me? I thought you were going to watch.
Put the grill on.
Iowa JD, who
quick update from Iowa JD tweeted this last night. Water buffalo has been captured.
I did see that.
That's exciting. Yep.
Is he okay?
As far as I know, yes. I don't believe he was killed.
I will debut something that he gave me yesterday tomorrow.
Nice.
Oh,
I will wear on the show. He says, "Is the game a sellout or yet, or do they have to start finding more underprivileged children to get into the stadium for free to get that to that number?"
Well, there are a lot of tickets currently
I thought you said a lot of children
available.
I thought they were less than 250. Now it's you're a 90,000 seat stadium and you have, I think it was 250, less than 250 that they have available through the athletic department.
Okay.
Now, if you're on a secondary site,
I'm on a secondary site.
So.
But on the main site, I think it's less than 250.
Yeah.
But this is look tonight. Eli Drinkwitz chimed in and he said, "Why aren't we selling out the stadium? You're playing friggin' Murray State, okay?
Yeah, Dorkwitz.
Now,
on a weeknight,
Colorado, as of yesterday, and their stadium much smaller.
Yep.
15,000.
Tiny Baby Buffalo Stadium. Mm-hmm. They have 2,500 tickets that are available for their home opener in year 2 of Dion.
Nice. Go watch a good game.
I mean, the sellout streak is,
we know what it is.
But around college football, you see a lot more empty seats, man. Mm-hmm. The days of, it's college football and they'll just be packed. You know what? You know what the days are? The days are, it's pretty damn comfy to stay at home and watch games because you have more access to games. Mm-hmm. You don't have to deal with hassle. Mm-hmm. You don't have to deal with, the seating arrangement. I just think around college football, we're not going to have sellout after sellout after sellout. We're just not. You might announce it as a sellout, but when the camera pans, they're going to show you that there are seats available.
And the Handley basement might be the place to be tonight.
I honestly, as I've gotten older, I don't know if you guys were this way too when you were in your 20s, 30s. Maybe there was at some point when you thought, gosh, the idea, whether you're married or not, or you're going to go down with friends, the idea of going through traffic, going to this place and then getting out of there, the amount of money. I get this for families especially, that at the end of the day, the way that it is brought and presented on TV and the things that you can do, socialize, and the amount of money that you save, that there's maybe a couple of games that you just want to be there. But as far as the entire season commitment of being there at every home game just is less appealing. I'm someone who, I much rather prefer the comforts of my home. If I lived in Chicago going to Bears games, I maybe would go to maybe 2. I even as much as I'm so passionate about it. Well, and the stadium's a dump, but and that's part of it too. And this is where I think a lot of this
call Memorial Stadium a dump.
It's outdated. I think we could say that it is definitely outdated. So I do applaud a lot of the college football venues that are trying to give you something other than, hey, our fan base is loyal to our team and we win, so they'll come, as opposed to, here's what we offer that is more of the modern amenities that, hey, when you go, it's not just the football, the entire thing is an experience. I don't know. I think you'll go to any venue, however it is set up, maybe not pay any price, but you'll pay decent prices when you're younger because it's part of being there, being seen, just so you can say you're there. You get to a certain point in life where it's like, okay, now I'm starting to emphasize convenience over being there for the experience every home game.
That's why the
as
troughs
opposed to
have
maybe
stay.
1 or 2. That's just how I feel about it.
All right.
I look forward to my slice of pizza or 3 on Saturday.
When will Nebraska announce that it's a sellout?
Tomorrow.
Because I don't think they've made a statement that the season is sold out.
Nope.
No, I got an email for
there
tickets.
There are tickets available. Like you can buy the 3-game package.
Right.
That is still available.
And I continue to see that being tweeted, and I get that in my emails as well.
But by this time last year, they had announced that the whole season was sold out, correct?
I think so, yeah. Was there didn't they also do a bundle package last year too?
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah, it was
weird to see in my email.
Tomorrow they will announce that Saturday's a sell. It'll be tomorrow. And it will be. All the tickets will be purchased.
And you know what? The ones that are not, we're going to make up to it for it because we're going to oversell the stadium for the Colorado game.
There you go. It all balances out.
All right. Coming up in about an hour, Steve Sipple will stop by. Don't forget, it is Red Out Week, brought to you by Union Bank and Trust and Oscars and the Connor Happer Show. And USC will be at Oscars today. Not the takeout only spot. That'd be a little tight in there.
That would be hilarious.
Well, I'll be out in the parking lot hanging out there.
But at 173rd and Center, we'll be there for the roundtable coming up between 12 and 1. Everybody on air, we'll get together and we'll chat about that little football team that's down in Lincoln. That the moment of truth has finally arrived in Lincoln, Nebraska in 2024.
That little football.
Looking at predictions on records. Whoa, Sipple is 7-5. Jack Mitchell 7-5.
Oh,
Sipple strikes me as a 10-2 kind of guy.
Okay. Shafe is
wow.
9-3.
Yeah. If Shafe's saying that, I'm paying attention.
Shafe's been pretty consistent.
Yeah.
That's why.
And he was consistent in the spring that he thinks that they will win 8-9 football games.
I mean, I'll go with Mitch and Bruns, but yeah, I respect that enough to where I'm like, maybe I'm underselling them.
You could sell me on 7-5. Talk to Sip coming up in an hour on 1620 The Zone. Hey, I want to convince you that FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. No, you already know that. But they have something that is a little bit different for you now through September 22nd. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV.
That's right. And with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game, whether you're looking to get that Steelers-Falcons game in Week 1, Patriots, Bengals, Texans, Colts, whatever it might be. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/zone to download America's #1 sportsbook. That is FanDuel.com/zone. Get it now. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. 21 plus and present in Iowa. Full price of NFL Sunday Ticket will be automatically charged seasonally after free trial. No refunds, terms, restrictions, and embargoes apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
All right, welcome back in Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Again, our roundtable coming up at noon today out at Oscars. Great spot for lunch. Please stop by. We're in the back room. We'd love to have you as part of Red Out Week. That's usually an entertaining discussion. We'll do predictions, season predictions.
Yeah. Game prediction on Saturday. You're covering, but you haven't given the score. That's fine. Are we doing headlines tomorrow? Sunday headlines for tomorrow too.
Sure.
The routine from last year.
Sure.
All right.
Zach writes into the Equitable Bank inbox. He said, going to games at Memorial Stadium isn't worth it. The ticket prices are way overpriced for the experience. They have priced out a lot of fans in the state because they got greedy, plus the ridiculous ticket fees on top of the overpriced tickets if you have to go to SeatGeek or Ticketmaster. The environment is trash. Whoa. Because it's geared towards blue hairs and boomers. From the crappy AC/DC music, old Tunnel Walk music, lame Killigan song, sit instead of stand crowd, no beer, the fact that the students aren't all right up next to the sideline, the infrastructure of the stadium is trash. Whoa.
This is a fan?
I'm taking my daughter to
Zach.
Devaney for volleyball tomorrow because that's an environment worth paying for. Not even considering buying tickets to any football game, not worth it. That's from
Fair.
Zach.
I agree on
There's some good points in there.
The student section, not being a big part of the game. I would also say that I think at some point, and I don't know what it is, because I hate doing this exercise because then people have all these suggestions that I also don't like when it comes to having an alternative to Sirius. I know people are traditionists. There's people that just do not want to see that thing go. I'm okay if there's something else that was introduced to it. But the stadium itself, yeah, it is what it is. I'm not going to disagree that it is outdated. I think it is very much outdated. I think there are certain things that you can do, but you can only do so much. We've talked about this before. With the structure in place, that you have that there on Vine, it's just not going to be all of a sudden built into some Taj Mahal of college football because you cannot do that within the time you have to accommodate the next year. And then, as we've talked about also, where the hell are you going to go? So the stadium, unfortunately, will have in years ahead, the most you'll see is touch-ups. You'll never see anything overly dramatic that would say, damn, now that is a state-of-the-art, looks like a brand new facility, because you can't do it. But I understand what Zach is saying. That there are parts of the experience, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier, that I really did get into when I was younger because it was all so new to me. Because you didn't care if you had a seat back. Like all those things, when you don't know it, that's just the experience. That's what you draw off of. Then when you go to other venues, whether it's, I know seatbacks is a popular thing, something as simple as that, or you see more of a modern feel, a little bit more spread out, a little bit more open, having that 360 view, all those things. And then you go back and you start to maybe resent the experience a little bit more because you've seen what other people have. The reality is, though, Nebraska, without major structural changes to that building, which you can't do, you're never going to really fully have that. And so you're counting on this another reason, and we've talked about this before as well, another reason this season is so important, because when you don't have the winning going on and the stadium every year gets more and more outdated, you're really, really banking on what is now a younger generation of fans that you're hoping will commit to season tickets, trying to sell them on something that, quite frankly, is more of a, well, just wait until this year. That's why the winning has to start from that standpoint, too. There's other reasons it has to, but from that standpoint as well.
I mean, you're going to go to games. The product on the field is good, and Nebraska's winning.
People go.
You're not going to complain as much about being uncomfortable.
Absolutely. Winning is fun.
That's pretty simple.
Absolutely.
I mean, winning cures a lot of things.
Yes.
Now, there are a lot of issues with Memorial Stadium that they have to be able to fix. It's a 100-plus-year-old facility that you can only do so much with. The problem that Nebraska football has in the game day presentation, and the thing that Nebraska control is on the field. Okay? They can, if they want to control on the field, if it's successful, they're not going to get as many complaints. Or people are like, you know what, I would rather stay in the parking lot and tailgate. That used to be, and it kind of still is, one of their major problems is there are people that have tickets to games that will just go and they will stay in the parking lot. They won't go into the stadium. Because they did this was probably about 6-7 years ago, they would go out in the parking lots during the games to ask people, you know, you're sitting here with a group of people watching the game on TV outside of your tailgate setup, and they would get, yeah, we have tickets, but we don't want to go inside.
Yeah.
So that was like, well, okay, we need to work on that. Problem they have is, and this is a lot of people, and you know, Nebraska's fan base is a little bit older, is how do they appease their older fan base that has been loyal, and even with the crap sandwich they have delivered to them, they keep eating it.
Right.
Compared to the new fan who wants more on the return on investment and are going to second guess that uptick in your personal seat license, even though the product on the field has not been good. And then also what happens with the game day presentation, with the kind of music. Okay. Do you want more of the band? Do you want more of the canned music? Do you want games between, you know, quarters? That kind of stuff. It's all a balance, and it has a lot to do with your demographics in your stadium. And Nebraska's fan base is a little bit older, but Nebraska needs to figure out how to convince the people that are under the age of 40 that there's a guy named Tom Osborne. They did a study. So this is the mobile gambling in this state recently did a survey, and they used Tom Osborne as an example. And they wondered how many people knew Tom Osborne. It might shock you that if you're under the age of 40 in this state, you don't necessarily know who Tom Osborne is.
Yeah,
So they've got this. They're trying to figure it out of the balance of the older fan and the younger fan, and then also the balance of keeping it a traditional college football atmosphere and trying to incorporate the NFL element into it. And that's a challenge that is not new to Nebraska. It's a lot of different places. As the college football fan that from day one was with you and has been loyal gets a little bit older.
Yeah.
Or that fan gets a little bit older and they're like, you know what, it's too hard for me on Saturdays, so I'm going to stay at home. And you already got the younger fan that's like, hell yeah, I'll stay at home. Have you seen my man cave?
Right.
I'll spend money on my man cave over spending $1,650 on my tickets for the season.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because so from the standpoint of not wanting to see it become all of a sudden the game day atmosphere and presentation that it is right now to completely go into a circus. Okay. There is that the balancing act I don't envy, because I would be, even as someone in my mid 40s, I would be a little bit ticked off if you completely dismiss the older fan base altogether, because they have given you that commitment. Okay. I mean, that cannot go unnoticed, because as much as every broadcaster from the national standpoint that comes in and talks and lauds the sellout streak, it's a big part of it for people who are tuning in and watching Nebraska for the first time thinking, wow, that's pretty crazy. And, you know, there is something to be said about that. And a lot of those older fans are the ones who got that started, and they committed to this every Saturday that Nebraska was playing in Lincoln. So you cannot completely dismiss that. But this is the reality too. Like you said, I'm not even talking about people that are passing away. I'm talking about people who just can't make that commitment to get to a game. So why do they financially want to make that commitment? That has to be taken into account. But also a younger fan base that has not seen this football program win at the level that a lot of the older fans did see. It's such a different dynamic of, okay, I can accept, if I'm a younger fan, I can accept that this team is not always going to be a 10-win team every year. Okay, fine. But if you want me to commit my money that I also used to provide for my family or whatever my lifestyle is, I need to know that I'm going to watch football that I can enjoy first and foremost, and everybody in the state seems to like it. It's a big deal. It always will be a big deal in the state. But what can you present to me as far as how I can get there, what the stadium is like inside? I was in Denver a week ago, and boy, that stadium is, you know, like you said, the NFL part of it. And so that's the balancing act that I know that it's almost like there's two different arguments here of people who want the absolute modern pearl of a stadium. And then there's other people that, like you said, you still want that traditional feeling of Nebraska because it's one of the very few traditional football programs, from the uniforms to the brand, all of that stuff. The history does still mean something, that you have to completely stick to what Memorial Stadium is. Mm-hmm. The problem is you cannot, for the other side that wants the brand new modern pearl, you can't do that. Yet, if you stick to the just traditional stadium the way it is, you're losing.
Yeah,
you're losing the arms race.
All of the discussion this year about not being able to use cash. They're going to limit your Wi-Fi while you're sitting in the stadium bowl.
Oh,
I'm here to tell you
they have great
that
Wi-Fi
when Saturday
there.
Gets here at 2:40, that place is going to be rocking.
Yeah, it will.
Grandma on 10th and Vine will be fine. You got 3 night games. The place will be unhinged. A week from Saturday, it'll be ugly in there. I was a Colorado fan. I wouldn't come to the game.
I agree.
It'll be ugly in there. So it's
morning, Josh.
It's still Memorial Stadium still delivers, and it's still an experience. And I'm not going to poo-poo on anybody that's like, you know what, that's what I live for. And 7 Saturdays a year, I spend my money, and I want to go there, and that place always be special to me because it is.
I like going there.
There's a couple of things they need to take care of, but all of this is taken care of if the team that is playing on the field that you're watching wins football games. You'll be uncomfortable to enjoy winning.
Hell yeah,
yeah. There's a lot of things that you'll do that if you're winning, you'll accept it. I'm not saying it's right, but you will, because all of these things that have been brought up about Memorial Stadium. When Nebraska's winning, do we have these discussions?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Not one bit.
No, we don't.
It wasn't like it was always such a modern
but
field
you have
back
to be
in the day.
You have to be cognizant of things that need to be upgraded.
Yes, you can't ignore it.
And you have to, if I'm talking to people in Lincoln, and this isn't new to them, is you also have to be cognizant of the fan and their experiences changing. They want to go in groups. They want to have group areas. They want to drink beer. They want to be able to watch games. They want to be able to do all that kind of stuff. How do you adjust to them while they adjust to you and your surroundings in a stadium that you really can't do much with?
Bingo.
Okay, because you're not going to
have bingo.
You're not going to do much with. I mean, you had a former athletic director that said, "Hey, after this season, we're just going to tear down part of the stadium and we're going to move us into the next." And you saw what the pushback was for that. There's the part of the uniqueness of Nebraska when it comes to that football program, that stadium, that gets in our way of progress. But at the end of the day, I think we can all agree, whether you're Zach, whether you're Nick, or anybody else, that place delivers. That place, to me, delivers 7 Saturdays a year, and there's very few places in this country that are like Memorial Stadium, and that is even when the team that is playing there does not deliver, does not give you a return on your investment, because there are a lot of times that you have gone to that stadium recently and you've had more of an investment than you think the team on the field has had, but yet you keep coming back, and that's okay. Don't ever apologize for that. But I'm here to tell you that the atmosphere to begin the season, I expect Saturday to be off the chains, and then 3 straight night games.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. That Friday game, and I'm still waiting. In Morgantown, they canceled the public schools because McAfee is there. West Virginia, Penn State are playing this weekend. That atmosphere is going to be insane in Morgantown. They canceled schools, so they canceled the public schools. I don't think they've canceled West Virginia because it's a Friday. And has anything been said from UNL on Friday classes?
No. I'm assuming it's a given, though, because remember, Volleyball Day Nebraska, they canceled classes, right?
Yeah.
So
but
I would assume
that was an announcement that was pretty far in advance, though.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything.
Unless students have already been informed of this, this would be interesting. You can ask one. You know one.
I don't think they have.
Which is surprising.
But so in the first 4 weeks of the season, the Nebraska starts at home. I'm here to tell you, and I'll experience it, and I'll report back, and I'll tell you if I'm right or wrong. 2 of the 4 weeks will have some of the best atmospheres that stadium has ever seen. One is the Colorado game, and then the Friday night game against Illinois will be a great atmosphere.
As far as the night games, you're right. The Northern Iowa game, maybe not so much, but I agree with you on Saturday too. Just this Saturday, because of everything that you get to see with your own eyes of this team and get an idea of things we were talking about earlier in the show. the other part about this entire conversation is you think about some of the most uncomfortable environments you have been in when your team is on a heater. We used to see it with the Civic Auditorium, whether it was Creighton basketball on a heater. No one's going to tell you that the Civic Auditorium is a great place to sit and watch comfortably a game and enjoy amenities.
No, you're right. It got loud there. I mean,
yeah, and that was part of it.
Chai when you can feel it,
and that's part of it. That's just being a part of that environment that you're like, damn, I don't care what I'm sitting on and how tightly I'm in. This game is awesome. This atmosphere is awesome, and you feed off of that. But the bottom line is because the product on the field is giving you reason to do that. If you keep doing that, you're good. You're good. But you also have to have things that other stadiums have when it comes to basic, newer amenities. Talk about alcohol sales and stuff like that. That obviously will have to be in the near future.
Ed, thanks for sharing part of this survey. So it's 62% of people they surveyed in the state of Nebraska under the age of 40. This is the mobile betting. Don't know who Tom Osborne is. I'm actually I'm not surprised.
Well,
under the age of 40.
Yeah. And that would be people 6 years younger than me. Which actually is kind of crazy, but it's not.
But you got a hell of a mustache today.
We got to take a break here. We got SIP coming up. Also, I'll talk to Brandon Vogel and Brian Edwards to make you some money on the opening day of week 1 of the college football season. We haven't even talked about North Carolina, Minnesota. Gophers are a dog. North Carolina's not good on the road. Both teams got a new quarterback. We'll see. We'll get into that. B. Edwards joins us later in the show on 1620 The Zone.
And this week's Zone Deal is Copal Mexican Restaurant. Copal, 129th and Maple, is Omaha's best-kept secret with weekend brunch on both Saturdays and Sundays. Sunday fun day with all-day happy hour on Sundays. In this deal, you'll receive two $25 vouchers, a $50 value for just $25. Get all the details, 1620thezone.com.
All right, football is here. Colorado plays tonight. Minnesota plays tonight. From afar, Nebraska doesn't play Minnesota, so how much will we pay attention to P.J. Fleck? That's an intriguing game. That's the State Fair game. Grab yourself, what is it, Martha's cookies, I think? Get bacon on a stick and a bucket of Martha's cookies from the Minnesota State Fair.
Yeah.
And you got yourself some Gophers and Tar Heels, which last year they combined for 44 points. The under is the play. 50.5 is the total in that game. Here is Ben to wrap up the hour. Good morning, Ben.
Morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Ben.
Hey, so you guys were talking about Tom Osborne before the break, and I was born in 95, and I remember him more as a politician than a football coach.
Okay.
So more than anything, you've heard stories of the coaching days, not necessarily, obviously, if you're born in 95, not necessarily witnessing that.
Correct. Like, my first Husker memory is Callahan era.
Oh. Sorry about
that. Ben, let me tell you about a decade earlier than that. Ooh. Hey, so you're a little bit of I would still say you're of the younger set. What's the best stretch of Husker football in your lifetime that you've enjoyed?
Pelini.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's
Pelini and Sue.
I mean, Bo hasn't been here for a decade.
Right.
So that says a lot.
Right.
Yep.
All right. Ben, thanks for the phone call.
Absolutely.
T.O. is a politician. Now, I'm the wrong person to ask because I immediately think of the head coach.
Right.
I don't even think of like, oh, hey, the former athletic director at Nebraska.
I almost kind of forget that he's a politician.
Yeah, I do too. So he'll always be the football coach to me. But again, under the age of 40, they did this survey because it must have to do with maybe some marketing that they're going to do, some advertising.
Yeah.
Is that people didn't know who Tom Osborne was. Now, they did not ask it as, do you know who Coach Osborne is?
Yeah.
They just said, are you aware of somebody named Tom Osborne?
Yeah. And that's actually an important distinction right
there. But the answer was no.
If you said, do you know who Coach Osborne is?
Is he in relation to the guy that I see a lot of political ads going on my TV right now? Was it Dan?
Which one?
I think there's, what, is it Dan Osborne? Jimmy, you know. You're big into politics in the state of Nebraska.
Absolutely. I am a regular.
It's really bad to me. Mr. Poli-Sci Minor over here paying no attention to that race.
Isn't that something it's easy to tune out too, though? I don't think that's crazy.
They're all full of feces, paraphrasing what my grandpa used to say.
Well,
doesn't matter which side.
Throw your grandpa under the bus. What you really meant to say was, it's me, but grandpa isn't here to defend himself.
Oh, no, he'd agree with me. No, so I don't pay attention. I tune him out. Just get my game back on.
What will be will there be a plane carrying a political banner atop above Memorial Stadium on Saturday?
Definitely.
Okay.
For sure.
Or a plane that says, welcome, Dylan.
And as you're making your way to Memorial Stadium, you'll be greeted with pamphlets on who to vote
I don't
for.
think they can do that
Oh, that's
anymore.
right. You're right.
They have a like a buffer around the stadium for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Doesn't mean they may not be able to find your tailgate, depending on where you're tailgating. Because where does that buffer end?
You know what? I don't know if I'm a fan, whether I'm for that person or not. If I really want them walking through the tailgate lots, glad handing,
I wouldn't.
You know I respond with RBF.
Save it for the Seward and Ralston 4th of July parade. Okay, I'm here because I want my football.
The Labor Day parade. There you go.
Yeah, save it for that, and there will be plenty of politicians.
So he's like Airplane when the pilot walks through the airport and he's just pushing guys out of the way.
Wait a minute.
Actually,
Speaking of that, you just brought something up here.
We need to do the Labor Day parade, by the way. Are they still shooting that thing? Oh, yeah.
You do play-by-play?
Yeah.
We've all done
Gary's hosted. I've hosted it, but we've never done it together.
No. I knew this. Septemberfest is not going on.
Yeah, that's right. This is the first year.
Yeah.
So no Labor Day parade.
Damn it. And who hasn't done that on Cox Television?
I know. I told you my illustrious co-hosts.
Yes. I could read a script with the best of them.
Oh, but see, why I think you would also be very, very good at it is when things get stalled, then you have to freestyle a little bit. Oh,
hey, this has been
right
a
in
rough
your
year in
wheelhouse.
2024 of long-time events that are not going on. So Maha, there was no Maha this year.
Right.
And this will be the first time in 46 years they haven't had September Fest
Yeah.
this weekend.
Yep. Then you'd always have all the September Fest festivities, the rides, but also didn't we have a rodeo that went on too? I think we had a little bit
The rodeo still goes on, but that's
that still
I
happening?
don't think that's attached to anything. I think that's
Is that its
the
own
River
thing?
City Roundup.
Oh yeah, River City Roundup, but that
End
was
of,
always going on
September.
that was always going on this. I thought it was going on the same time as September Fest, and maybe 1 year then. I might be confusing that, but is that still happening?
Well, we got a streetcar coming, and we got a skyscraper coming.
You're damn
so
right.
we'll be fine. So we don't need Maha or the September Fest.
Mhm.
We got other things that are going to take care of us here in Omaha.
Celebrate laborers on Monday. Missed that. That was fun.
Yeah, it's
always got a free pie.
It's
out
always
of it.
ironic in the NFL. About a week out from Labor Day, the NFL cuts 30 guys from each roster. All right, SIP's around the corner ahead of the opener to an interesting season, anticipated season, a moment of truth season, and just a season that couldn't get here soon enough. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley at 1620 The Zone.
Halftime brought to you by Omaha Whiskey Fest 2024, the largest celebration of whiskey in the region on September 28th downtown at the Hilton. And it just got that much better because Big Red overreaction after the Purdue game will also be live at Whiskey Fest 2024.
All right, we have Big Ten football tonight, Minnesota, North Carolina. Minnesota is a 1.5 underdog. Tight game between them and North Carolina. Both schools have a new quarterback. Both schools have a good running back. Hampton for North Carolina, Taylor for Minnesota. PJ Fleck's usually been pretty good in home openers.
Yeah, we saw that last year.
I think I like Minnesota tonight.
Okay.
If they can, what is a sign that there was maybe a crack in Minnesota is last year at the end of the year, their rush defense was terrible. I could have maybe gotten a couple of yards against their rush defense.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're facing a really good running back from North Carolina. So we'll see if they've got that fixed. Their quarterback play will be better than it was last year.
Minnesota's?
Yes.
With Brosmer over the Greek Freak?
Yeah. I mean, I'm
not going to take much.
I'm not saying a lot here, but they will have better quarterback play. There are some guys that used to be in the old West Division that are head coaches. They're going to have very interesting years that they need to keep their head above water or they're going to drown because they do not have the life preserver that is the West Division. The guy in Minnesota and then the guy in Champaign.
Yep.
But this is a big night for Fleck because across the field is Mac Brown, who most people have like a good impression of Mac Brown in North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Let me spit some facts at you.
Do it.
North Carolina's 38-27 under Mac Brown. He might be producing guys that are going to the NFL at the quarterback position like Sam Howell and Drake May. They've lost 4 straight bowl games. They weren't very good on the road last year. As a matter of fact, they were 1-3. The perception because, he's a nice guy, he's Mac Brown, he's that old, and he still can dance, and, he probably says bro.
Well, that's right, bro.
There's like tonight Minneapolis kind of a reality check.
Yeah. Their
opener, Mac Brown against PJ Fleck. I kind of, in a tight game, I kind of like Minnesota tonight.
Minnesota is the team that is, like the other teams without a division, is the most intriguing to me because of, it wasn't that long ago, 2019, right, was the 11-win season. And we were mentioning that open up the season that Thursday night against South Dakota State where they almost coughed that one up, but they go to an 11-win season, culminated by that Penn State victory in Minneapolis. And it just looked like, okay, they were just getting started, the way they recruit the running back position. There was a lot of things that it's the PJ Fleck culture is not for everybody, but he knows how to find the people that are going to work in that culture. And as long as he's got those pieces that his formula can win. I think about 2 teams in particular from the West Division that you just brought up in Minnesota and Illinois, when they, in the last 5 years, have each had that signature season. And I think you could point for both of those teams. And again, I'll give Minnesota credit that year. They did beat a pretty good Penn State team. Yeah, but a lot of that success between those 2 schools when they had that signature year was in large part to do with that division. I think, and it was interesting when we were doing our friend or foe segment about Illinois, of the feeling around Brett Bielema is that, no, he's good. What they did 2 years ago is still going to serve him very well. I don't know how invested into the end game of the new stakes of college football that Illinois necessarily is. So maybe they're right. Maybe there is a longer runway for a guy like Brett Bielema who has a little bit of that history, especially in the Big Ten of success when he was at Wisconsin. But the PJ Fleck one to me is very interesting, Gary, because when I think of a guy that has been rumored, the only reason I say rumored is because he hasn't come out and said, yeah, I did, that has been interested in other jobs, but still remains at Minnesota. And it's almost like you're trying to get ahead of any type of disastrous season, so that decision isn't made for you. I would think amongst the people in that athletic department that if you're already flirting and you're already looking for other stops, you're looking for the next thing, to me, this season would be that much more important for Minnesota because, all right, if we're going to put up with that, almost in a way, not to the same extent, but the Jim Harbaugh, every year you just got to know in the offseason that Your coach is going to be flirting with the NFL. You got to put up with that. As long as we're winning football games, we're good with that. That's fine because that's what we need him to deliver for us. PJ Fleck's not delivered at that same level. That I do wonder how short of a runway that is for PJ Fleck, especially if they have a rough one this year, given being out of that division, the schedule that they have, right out of the gate. I mean, you're right. I mean, they're a team that, I mean, this is essentially a 50, it's essentially a pick 'em game. They're playing at home, so that's fine. But when they get into conference play, how will they look now out of that division? And what does this team look like in the second half of the year as opposed to the first half of the year too, where again, last year it wasn't all that pretty either. I think this is a huge year for just what they want to do going forward in the conference. If they're going to be at least in that middle tier of Big Ten, I think they're going to have to decide here very shortly, is PJ Fleck going to be the guy that can get them there?
Oh,
I think this is a huge year for PJ Fleck.
So you think if they don't go to a bowl game, he's gone?
I think he's very close. Yeah,
by his own choice or Minnesota's?
Now, see, that's a good question. I feel Minnesota's growing very tired of it. I feel because that he's looking elsewhere. And if you're looking elsewhere, again, you'll put up with that if you're winning football games. But if you're continuously looking elsewhere and you're not holding up your end of the bargain at the current job you're at, I think people, including decision makers in that chair, get very tired of that. Because I think they want to put into that football program. And he's one of the guys that is always talking about the Dinkytown Collective and trying to get more resources into it. But at some point, you got to be doing your part when it comes to the product on the field. So I think that is one team that is a former West Division team that I think is the most intriguing as far as what this season means to their future.
Big night for him. Big night to start 1-0 as a underdog. I think that line, like in the summer, opened up as, I mean, it's always been tight. I think Minnesota was 2.5-point favorite in the summer.
I do not remember if they were a favorite or
now
not.
Now a 1.5-point dog against North Carolina. Mac Brown is people rave about Mac Brown in North Carolina. 38-27. Just going to leave it there.
That's the equity that you get. No, that's the good guy effect, though. You're right. It's Mac Brown won a national championship at Texas. Mac Brown has been a part of.
You know what year that was?
Yeah, 2005.
You know what year this is?
2024. We're almost 20 years away from that. Yeah.
No, trust me, I know.
So,
especially when I look in the mirror.
Well, people in the sport kind of forget. They're like, okay, Saban's gone, so how many coaches are left that have won a national championship? Jimbo Fisher's taking the year off. He's on Sirius, talking college ball. Oh, you got Dabo and you got Kirby.
Yeah.
People forget that Mac Brown won a national championship.
Mm-hmm.
I do not, but yes, most people do.
Was it last year that they started in preseason number? They were in the top 10. I'm trying to remember because a lot of, and the reason I bring that up, a lot of what they have put out has been under Mac Brown. That has been largely underachieving based on the projections. I don't think it's first year, but I thought it was either last year or the year before that they started out preseason top 10 and obviously didn't finish there. So I would always assume, though, that Mac Brown, if we're going to have the same conversation about PJ Fleck, if this isn't a great season for North Carolina and it's more underachieving than anything, I would like to think that Mac Brown has been around
Nick
long
just
enough.
firing guys right and left today.
I think Mac.
He's on one today.
I think Mac Brown.
What if Matt Rule goes 5-7? You getting rid of him?
No.
Okay. So Rule's safe.
I think Mac Brown is one of those guys, though, that decides because he talks about it, but if it doesn't go well, he's one of the old school coaches that I could say maybe this new college football era is not for me. I could see him. I don't think that decision is necessarily forced upon him. I think he makes that.
I'd be curious. They've got Max Johnson, who has bounced around from LSU to Texas A&M. He's on third school. Is their quarterback, or at least I think that they don't think they've officially announced their quarterback. That's a big starter for both of those. That's a good game. That'll be on the split of you got North Dakota State and Colorado, and then you got to watch Minnesota and North Carolina.
Yeah, because you can watch ball tonight since your game's been moved up, right?
12th straight year that Minnesota has opened at home. Nebraska, this will be the first time in 5 years they've opened at home.
That's crazy.
Well,
it's weird.
Do what you will with that information.
That is crazy.
We'll talk to Steve Sybil coming up next. All right, 2 days away from UTEP, but football begins tonight. There'll be a lot of interest in Boulder and also in Minneapolis. You in your car? Are you in your car?
Oh, you're asking me that?
Yeah, because I'm not in my car.
Yeah, I am in my car. It's not a perfect situation because it's never perfect when I'm driving, but I think I can do both.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Good morning. Glad to hear your voice. I'm sure that you and your colleagues are ready for the season to get started, so we have something to talk about that is tangible.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know why it was kind of blanked out? No, this will be really sound good to the listeners. I was driving and reading what me and Sean are going to talk about later, so I was a little zoned out. I was thinking about all that. But anyway, yeah, no, it is really, this is getting, God, it just feels to me like it just almost came out of nowhere today. Like there's 2 Big Ten games on. There's a Big Ten game on this afternoon, basically at 5 p.m. You know, Rutgers and Howard, and then Minnesota and North Carolina, and then the big one, you know, the big one also in Colorado. Yeah, it's a huge night. I mean, it's a huge night, I'd say, for Nebraska fans.
Yeah, how dialed in on as far as, okay, better question. What are you watching for out of the Colorado North Dakota State game? Is this a game that you really feel, hey, they're going to be tested to the point that you can find out a lot about Colorado tonight?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, there's a lot I'm watching. I would start with the edge rushers for Colorado. I mean, obviously, if you're a Nebraska fan, that's concerning. Colorado feels like it has a wealth of edge rushers. You know, whereas, you know, we're talking about Maurice Westmoreland this week coming in with UTEP, number 0, good pass rusher, kind of zoned in on him. They probably got about 3 Westmorelands on Colorado's team, okay? I'm going to be watching that. What kind of pressure they get on the quarterback. Do those guys look as athletic as they're portrayed? My guess is they will. Then I'm looking at Colorado. How dangerous are they at the receiver position? You know about the one, Travis Hunter. Probably know about the Vanderbilt transfer, Shepard. Do they have 3 or 4 other guys that concern you? You know, along with Shedeur Sanders, the very gifted quarterback. Can they protect? I mean, you'll find out a little bit about that. North Dakota State is a good program. It's a solid program. They'll have good players. It's a veteran program. That's probably the big thing. A lot of guys that have come up through that system, 5th-year guys, 6th-year guys. So, oh God. I mean, I can't believe that if you're a Nebraska fan, it'd be hard for me to understand why you wouldn't watch the game. Right? Mm-hmm. Like it's gigantic in the big scheme of things and the small scheme of things.
How gigantic is the opening game on Saturday? I said earlier, I think it's important for Nebraska with everything they've talked about and the expectations that I got to make a convincing opening statement. In your opinion, how big is Saturday for Nebraska?
Everyone's big. Every game's, well, I mean, like I think Bob Devaney used to say, every game is big here if you lose. I mean,
correct.
So there's always that. But I mean, as Nebraska's trying to make this program turn around, yeah, every game feels really big to me. It's big because of Dylan Raiola. What's that picture going to look like? Oh, I think now, Gary, here's the thing. I feel like every Nebraska game is big.
True.
It's hard for me to. I mean, some are bigger than others, obviously, but everyone feels monumental to me in football because there's so few of them.
If there is, I want to bring this up because you mentioned this on Thursday when we were talking. Gary said the exact same thing this week about what we heard with the bevy of offensive players that talked on Tuesday, including also the offensive coordinator, Marcus Satterfield, about Heinrich Harburg's use. You brought up what I think was a very good point about, okay, well, if that's the case, who are you taking off the field? Now, fast forward to what we heard the coach and the players say. How much we were trying to define when Satterfield said a lot. How much of that is gamesmanship, and how much of that do you think there's going to be a carved out role where, a playmaker that they think is going to be on the field, but a playmaker might also be off the field too.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of all that. I was really almost startled by what Satterfield was saying on Tuesday. That we're going to use Heinrich a lot in this sort of alternate role.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. Now the big part of that, there's a couple critical parts of the discussion, and one of them is that Heinrich told them he doesn't want to stand on the sideline with a clipboard.
Right.
And I think that he has earned, sort of, because of what he's done in this program and how he's regarded, they're going to, I think they'll, adhere to those wishes. And that's a big part of it. Because I think there was maybe a time in Heinrich's life that he wouldn't have been so open to this sort of discussion, taking snaps away from his development at that quarterback position. He wanted to be a quarterback. And this, if you're going to do this if you're going to try to do this other role, that means you got to practice these other positions. Or if you don't, and you're not comfortable doing it, you could look like a buffoon on Saturday. You have to be proficient in what they're asking you to do, which takes a lot of practice reps. So I don't know what that's going to look like. It could be as simple as the Wildcat, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But are they going to line him up somewhere else? I was really it was really provocative, I thought, when Jamal Banks was asked about Heinrich and said, "Man, when he's running downhill, there's guys that don't want to tackle him." Running downhill. I guess that could be from the quarterback position. And I thought, okay, man, are they lining him up at running back sometimes? I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. But that is a very, very interesting storyline, in my opinion.
What do you think this offense will look like? What will be the identity of this offense when it's all said and done in about 3 months?
God, that's a question. I always used to say they want to run it in a conventional way with the running backs. So it'll be heavy running back, running game with a lot of play action. I think that's ultimately like what they'd want to do, but I don't think that's what it's going to look like this year. I don't. I think it'll be, I hate to say, I don't know, pass heavy. I think a lot of some of the runs that you would ordinarily, some of the downs that you would call run plays on, they might call some pass plays. All I'm doing here is getting at this. And listen, I'm not a coach. I'm not a coordinator. I've never called a play. So I always feel a little bit uncomfortable going in this direction. But I can say this. They have better talent at the receiver positions than they do at running back. They don't have a quarterback that's going to run. At least not many designed runs, if any. So I think it's going to be pretty pass heavy. I think you're going to see a lot of short passing game. I think you're going to see a lot of those passes toward the sideline, horizontal passes, where you're leaning on those big, fast, strong receivers to get you 4 or 5 yards, maybe on first down. So that, I think, you're trying to get the ball to your best players, and your best players are at the receiving positions and the tight end positions.
The matchup that you kind of alluded to this as far as what you want to see watching Colorado tonight. You brought up Maurice Westmoreland. From the standpoint of major takeaways that you can see right out of the gate, is that it on Maurice Westmoreland going up against Turner Corcoran and seeing, how that might hold up throughout the year?
Yeah, that's huge. If he's that, he might be lined up over Benhart.
Sure,
too. I don't.
Sure.
Westmoreland. I'll be watching number 0 very closely for UTEP. I'm also interested in how Nebraska handles UTEP's tempo. If you switch the conversation to UTEP's offense against Nebraska's defense, I think the only way that UTEP would bother Nebraska much is with tempo. They want to snap it every 12 seconds. All that, that can get you a little out of whack if you're not well prepared for it. But Nebraska, because of the veteran nature of its defense, I would think wouldn't have much problems with anything that UTEP presents. I could see I mean, I guess if I were a Nebraska fan, I would hope to see a dominant. I've changed my tune a little bit on this discussion as the week has gone on. I think this is a game you'd look for Nebraska's defense to be dominant. I mean, keep them to 8 or under, keep them to 10 or under, I guess. And if they don't, it's not the end of the world. It's an opener. But I think this defense is really going to be pretty good. And UTEP's offense was terrible last year. Now they have all new offensive linemen. Maybe those guys are way better, but it's still, UTEP's just getting its feet underneath them against a defense that has its feet underneath them.
Why do you think, and you said this on USC, you predicted Nebraska will go 7-5. You and I have talked about it plenty about the wait and see, even getting to 7-5 with this schedule would be a step forward. Why do you think Nebraska will be 7-5? Why do you think they might be 8-4?
Well, I think they'll be better. Come on, they'll be much better on offense. I would think much better on offense.
Well, one position by far.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the quarterback position. And the receiver positions should be a lot better. Now, a lot of the receiver discussion was about injury last year. Washington was a good player. Kemp was a pretty good player. Kemp wasn't. He didn't get hurt. Didn't have a season-ending issue, but he was a little banged up. But they lost guys at the receiver positions, which affected the whole conversation. They obviously they just really struggled at quarterback. So they should be better there. What keeps me from going all in, like Mike Schaefer today on our show, it predicted 9-3, and I would love to do that. It's more of this. It's a bigger picture discussion. Like, I'm just not ready to say to go all in on Nebraska going 9-3. I'm just because of everything we've seen, and then what you guys alluded to today, the tackle position, the kicker situation. Just is this program really ready to start closing out teams?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's hard to close out teams. It just is. Like tonight, I think that North Dakota State is good enough to push Colorado, but are they good? It's a way different discussion. Are they good enough to close out Colorado? Are they good enough to nail down a win? It's really sort of an empty discussion to me to say, Nebraska's been close. A lot of teams can get close. It's all about close. And that's kind of what I want to see from Nebraska. Do they have the mentality? Do they have the players to actually close down wins? And I don't know. There's a hesitancy still.
A lot of people will point to the last 5 games of the schedule, starting with Ohio State. And if you want to have some good feeling on top of what obviously at the very least is ending in a bowl game, but how that last chunk of the season would spell success with Ohio State, UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Sip, is there a number that needs to be reached there, in your opinion, for us to say, boy, this ended differently than last year, as far, obviously not going over in November, but at least being able to get to a certain amount of wins in that stretch, to you, what would be successful?
Yeah, kind of. I'd say 3-2 is something, if you really want to come out of this season saying, oh yeah, they're on the right track. This is, in fact, they're not only on the right track, this could get really exciting. 3-2. It seems like that should be doable. Again, it's only doable if you're able to close down close games. Because if you're going to go 3-2 in that stretch, you're going to have to win close. Because you're not who you blowing out in that bunch. Who are you going to beat? 38-14 in that bunch. Maybe UCLA.
Yeah, maybe
UCLA at home. You might be able to do that. But are you going to go to USC and win 41-14? You got to hold Lincoln Riley to 14? Really? No, you're probably not going to. USC's probably going to score 27. Okay, now so you got to go out there and score 31, and then you win by 4. All right, it's those kind of games. You think you're going to beat Iowa by? You think you're going to put 42 on Iowa? I mean, come on, man.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably going to have to win 21-17. Yep. That's what I'm talking about. You have to close.
Okay.
And if you lose 21-17 to Iowa, who cares? Well, at this point, really, who cares? Like, yeah, you got close. What if you lose to USC close? Who cares? USC's not that good. You play USC in LA to within 7. You think the fans here are going to be like, oh, that's great, that's progress? No, it's really not. They've been doing that, and
now you've clarified. Now I understand what you're saying. So I think this will be another year where Nebraska will be, and I'm going to say 8 of the 12 will be 1-score games.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason why they will not, I mean, they might be 500 in 8 1-score games, but the reason why they will start to win 1-score games will be because of who or what?
Oh, that's a great. Well, I would say, God, that's a good column. That's a good column.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna start offensively. Dylan and playmakers at the receiver position. That they will be able to make plays down the stretches of games with Fedoni, with Banks, with Nayor, with Lloyd, and I really feel confident in saying that. I get some protection. I mean, that's the thing that, I mean, there's some hesitancy. And then, of course, I believe it's a real defense. I believe the defense is real, and not just sort of this product of bad Big Ten offenses. I think it's a very good defense. So those are the reasons.
Okay, I'm vibing with you. I'm just glad it's here. We have one more day to talk and talk and talk, and then we finally get a game, and then we can talk and talk and talk about that game. And you know what is next week? Sip, fantastic work by you and the boys. I've really enjoyed it. You guys have had a banger of a month.
Well, that's nice of you to say that. You have too, and yeah, tonight will be fun. Just enjoy it.
Yep. Thanks, Sip. We'll see you on Saturday. Steve Sipple from On 3, 93.7 The Ticket. Kudos to our Webbers, not Dave, but I do like Dave.
Who doesn't?
The websites, guys at Rivals, guys at 24/7, guys at On 3. They've been putting out some good content. This is good stuff. We're somewhat. I know, maybe you don't like us all, but if you're a Nebraska fan, you get a lot of content to consume that people are churning out. So I say good luck to everybody, men and women that are covering Nebraska, and I consume a lot of it. We have a lot of those people, but the Webbers have had some good stuff. They've made me think. I'm going to throw this out there because Sip is strong on 7 and 5, and I'm not saying that he's wrong. 7 and 5 might look pretty good to some. I get the feeling, though, if Nebraska was 7 and 5 this year, y'all think it would be a letdown. But isn't this team easy to evaluate individually, hard to evaluate as a team?
Yeah. Yeah, that's 100% it is, because the things that we've looked at with this team in the past, because the question that is now going to be in Sipple's next column is, from a turnover standpoint, from the takeaways, from some of the team dysfunction in those key moments, I think is where people are hesitant to go all in on Nebraska, because these are the things that you're looking for. I think people, as an individual, people are very encouraged and high on Dylan Raiola. I think when you look at, and maybe I wouldn't put the defense in this conversation as much, but what needs to improve this year offensively, there are a lot of individual parts about this offense that you can say, yeah, you know what? Like this person, like what he can do, like what he can do. As a team, as a group, can that all have the same type of productivity that you're going to need as far as how we're looking at the individual? I think that's a great point, because especially defensively, I don't really have that problem. Defensively, I feel pretty good about what that group entirely does. So I think it's easier to evaluate the defense as a whole. Offensively, I think is where your question probably hits home a lot more. With maybe the one exception to running back, because I don't know individually. Well, okay, no, still goes. because I think we know what the running back individually can and can't do. It's not just the guys that are, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, so correct me if I'm wrong. It's not necessarily we know how to evaluate the individual by basically speaking about them in a very high regard. Some of them, you know, there are the legitimate question marks, like Turner Corcoran, like the lack of having an explosive running back. But again, those conversations are individualized, not necessarily about the group itself. And that's where I think people, if you are saying, God, I could see this being 8 or 9, but you stop short of that, it's exactly what you're asking right there. It's because we cannot evaluate the group yet.
All right, 8:51. Brandon Vogel and Brian Edwards still to come. Something you just said popped a thought into my head about offense and defense that we'll get into when we come back. And also, we need to retire the year 2 Matt Rule phrase. I don't know if you guys want to go there. If you want to start digging dirt, and we can just put it in there.
I'm good with that.
Or kick year 2 and it just rolls into the grave. Isn't this actually year 3 for Matt Rule at Nebraska? You remember what happens in year 3?
Mm-hmm. That's the major elevation of the program. The year 2 is the get into a bowl. Year 3 is, look at that.
No, it's called stability.
Mm-hmm.
I think year 2 Matt Rule is a tired phrase, and he hasn't even started officially year 2. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
All right, there's another part of this season. So he's a great follow on Twitter. He's been great to interact with. Stu Manji, Eric, has the famous chart of Nebraska final possessions when tied or losing by one score or less. I'm hoping that in 2024 they can retire this chart because it has turned around. But I want to bring this up because Nebraska is going to again play in a lot of close one-possession games. Do they have a cut stopper? Do they have a guy that has the DNA in him, the clutch genie that can lead you down the field? Do you feel better about Nebraska with a lead, stopping a team in the last minute, or trailing to go and score to go ahead? But I'm going to give you an example of how this is so wild. Whenever I look at these charts, between 13 and 16, which was the Tommy Armstrong era, okay, I'm going to say the clutch genie that quarterbacks have. Tommy Armstrong, in his era, final possessions when tied or losing by one score or less, Nebraska was 10-9.
Okay.
Then you go to 18 to 23, where there was a bunch. There was a Martinez, there was a Vedral, there was a McCaffrey, there was a Smothers, there was a Thompson, there was a Sims, there was a Harburg, there was a Purdy, that all were the quarterback on the final possession, offensive possessions, when tied or losing by one score or less. 18 to 23, 30 drives, 27 games, 10 turnovers, 9 quarterbacks, 4 overtimes, 3 scores, 2.5 staffs, 1 win.
Good God. And that was, let's see. No, that wasn't Purdue. The 1 win.
2019.
And that would have been against
game-winning field goal.
Northwestern?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And Noah Vedral was the quarterback.
That's right.
So there is not only does Dylan Raiola have the clutch genie, and do they have an offense that can score to win a football game late? You would say, well, they might have an offense that prevents you from getting in these. No, not realistic.
Nope.
Nebraska is still not built. They're built where they're going to play close games. Do they have a quarterback that part of his repertoire, which I think is, for a young guy, extensive, does he have the clutch genie to win a one-score game and lead a team to that? Because that needs to change. If that doesn't change, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be in the hamster wheel around here. But I think this is the year. You want to tell me something's different, Nick? Those numbers start to change.
Yeah.
And those 8 one-possession games, you win minimum 4.
And you go back to the era where they were 10-9 in that stretch, in the Tommy Armstrong era. Tommy had flaws throwing the football, but the one thing that Tommy Armstrong wanted was the football. And he was that was the thing about Tommy Armstrong. Say what you will about his game overall as a quarterback. The guy was a winner. I have no problem saying that. And I think that that's an overlooked in that particular statistic right there. I remember his redshirt freshman year when he and Ron Kellogg were going back and forth in Michigan, of all places. Now, that wasn't a great Michigan team. But remember, coming from behind, Tommy Armstrong had the ball, made the necessary plays, picked up a couple of first downs with his feet as well, made a couple of what were higher percentage throws, but still made those throws.
Yeah.
Then I also go back to, I think we all remember the Oregon game. 2nd down and 4. Place just goes up for grabs when he takes that to the house. Gives Nebraska the lead, and they hold on to the lead for good. So you look at the beginning of his career and the end of his career, had the same type of presence in those moments to be able to at least want the football and make the necessary plays athletically. Now, obviously for Dylan Raiola, this will look a lot different when it comes to how I have no doubts that he will want the football and he will want to make those plays. But where I think, and this goes back to your question before we went to the break about easier to evaluate the individual, but not necessarily as the team. This is what remains to be seen. I think Dylan is a major upgrade there. I think the guys that they have at wide receiver are a major upgrade. And I think the running backs are serviceable enough that you can move the football in those moments. But as a team, even with the offensive line, as a team without seeing this group together, will they be able to start to reverse that trend? Because I think all the individual pieces are there. But it comes back to what you said earlier, that's tough for me to say, yes, 100% that will change, because I do feel better of Nebraska being able to hold off a drive. I think with this group, one more year wiser together, the veterans that they have. But we also, if people forget, in November last year, for a team that was such good at quick change defense that could hold off short yardage situations or short field situations and at least hold to a field goal, or even sometimes be able to drive them back to where they still had to punt, that wore down. So, yes, as a group in its entirety, I feel better about Nebraska being able to hold off an offense. But to think that this offense doesn't have the pieces to reverse that trend is, I think, probably missing the point. But we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, there's another point that I think is pretty important in this that we'll get to in just a moment when we come back. Brandon Vogel will join us. I believe Michael Terry has committed to Texas. I am seeing that tweeted out by a couple of people that he has picked Texas.
So much for those visits coming up.
So. I got to double check that. There's a couple of people on my timeline that are saying Michael Terry to Texas. But to the point about the one possession games from the TA era to what is about to begin on Saturday, I think there's one huge component that I'll bring up when we come back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
1620 The Zone and Liberty First Credit Union present Ralston Day, sponsored by Liberty First Credit Union and all of our stations, going on August 30th to September 2nd. You can watch the big Nebraska UTEP game, all of it going on in the Liberty First Credit Union parking lot, free admission, carnival rides, music, and much more, including food trucks.
Hey, do we have any idea who's on the call for the Colorado-North Dakota State game?
Let me check.
It's not Mark Jones, is it?
Oh, it might be. I bet it could.
Let's look at
A
awful
friend of Dion is calling the game.
It would be a
Good thing I won't be watching.
A Dion hype show.
It's not one of the main ESPN crews.
It might be. It could be.
We get
Would it shock you if it was? I'm
get a little Reese Davis on a Thursday night in Boulder before they go to College Station.
Dr. Jerry Punch on the side.
By the way, I think of the marquee games. I think the Notre Dame Texas A&M game to me is the top billing of the weekend.
Let's see.
Notre Dame an underdog. Marcus Freeman pretty good on the road as an underdog.
Why am I not finding this?
When in doubt, go to the media notes.
Oh, true. Oh, yep. Here it is. Mark Jones and Roddy Jones with Quinn Kessinch.
You guys can tell me how that broadcast is.
That might have to be turn down the sound game. Because Mark Jones is a big Dion.
I mean, that's how I watched the NBA Finals.
What was the game he did last year?
All of them.
It did seem like he did a lot of Colorado games.
He didn't do the TCU game. He didn't do the Nebraska game.
He did CSU.
Well, okay, maybe that's the one. It was. That's the one I'm thinking of. The one that was the overtime win.
And we talked about it on Monday that it was just.
It was a Dion.
He's coming from Mark Johnson's job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so doubtful that will come up. Hey, I wonder if the rush defense, which 7 times gave up 195 yards or more last year, if it's improved. So that probably won't come up.
No.
Okay.
It's a good topic, though, to discuss in a broadcast.
That'd be a good game to have on and don't have the sound on and just watch.
You can hate watch.
What's going to go on. But back to the conversation we had before the break about Nebraska's inability to win one-possession games at the end. And if you have a quarterback, is it different because he can lead you down the field? What do you think about this reasoning? So Tommy Armstrong had a modicum of success, 10-9. Then from 18 to 23, Noah Vedrill's the only guy. And I don't know that I would take Noah Vedrill ahead of Adrian.
No.
Okay. But Noah led the drive to get the field goal to beat Northwestern in 2019.
Lane McCallum.
Will this be the first time that since a Tim Beck, Danny Langsdorf play callers, that the play caller has trust in one-possession games in his quarterback and he will call accordingly? Because even though Tommy was YOLO ball and he would throw in some of those games in that 10-9 stretch where he would throw game-ending interceptions, they were at least aggressive. And I bring this up because what has been talked about, we're confident, all gas, no brakes. We're not going to slice down the playbook. We've given him the keys to the car. Okay, call plays where you trust that kid to make plays. And Langsdorf and Beck were pretty aggressive with Tommy because Tommy was a little bit of a gunslinger.
Yeah.
And then we got really, really hesitant and conservative. And, oh, my God, I can't call a turnover here.
Right.
And it probably had a little bit of an impact. I wonder now, as you try and erase those memories of poor last possession games, if you just let it rip because you got a guy that you trust.
Yeah.
And that'd be the first time since TA was a quarterback. And that, ironically, was the last time Nebraska went to a bowl game.
Yeah, and how are you going to find out, too, unless you don't hold anything back? That's the entire part of the evolution and development of Dylan Raiola is if he is going to be as good as advertised, and I'm right there with you as far as the amount of close, tight games, nut-cutting time that you're going to see Dylan Raiola be a part of, that you're doing the kid no favors by not letting him do that. And this goes back to where I do think when you hear the coaching staff led by Matt Rule talk about aspects of the game, and from this standpoint of, we're not, and he almost, I don't know how you took this. He almost seemed annoyed by the question. I think he understood the question, but I think he seemed annoyed by it of why would we do that? which I love that answer. Absolutely do. Because to his point, if you're gonna learn more about your freshman quarterback and there are going to be mistakes, I'd rather see those, figured out now. Make those mistakes so we can learn from them. I totally understood what you were saying, but if all of a sudden, say in that Colorado game, second start for Dylan Raiola, that you get extremely conservative in a potential game-winning drive, or at least you take a little bit more of the ball out of his hands and try to lean on certain aspects of your offense in the backfield because you don't fully trust them, how are you ever going to know? Especially in environments like that too. So I do believe they will do that based on the fact that, not necessarily even what Matt Rule said this week, the fact that they are undoubtedly looking at a true freshman as their starting quarterback. That's how you're going to find out.
So I'll throw another element into it. So go back to TA's time, 13 through 16. This is probably the deepest Nebraska's had of a wide receiver room in about a decade. I thought the 13-14 stretch of Bo's wide receivers, they were pretty deep and they were pretty talented.
Yep.
What do you have now? Along with a quarterback that probably you have as an OC that trusts him more,
right?
You have a plethora of different looking and different skill set wide receivers. Just an observation by a man that has not stayed at a Holiday in a long time.
And I'll add that to bringing up those old receivers. Okay, we're talking about guys like Kenny Bell, guys like Jordan Westerkamp, Tariq Allen, guys that weren't. I don't want to. Kenny, they all had playmaking abilities in their own way. Some just had better hands. Some just were good route runners. Some had the speed. There was all of that. But the other part of that is, think about where Tommy thrived, not only in the moments of potential game-winning drives. Okay, there's the confidence that is always going to come with it, and I think if you're going to have that at the quarterback position. But I think it also is instilled upon you based on how a coaching staff lets you handle those drives. I don't think that's going to be a problem with Dylan Raiola. But I also think of where Tommy thrived in the passing game. We know that when it came to the deep ball, unless it was off of play action where Nebraska was gashing, the deep ball was very suspect with Tommy. There, like you said, he would the YOLO ball. He would take chances. He would play 500. But in those drives, and I don't know why I still have this one in my head of the Michigan game, his redshirt freshman year, 5-yard crossing patterns, 10-yard outs, high percentage where you have not only the ball being delivered on time, but you have receivers running the correct routes. So to me, that makes a big difference that you also have a guy that understood, hey, I'm coming in. Yeah, I'm competing for this job, but if it's my job to have, I got to start that work now with the receivers. I'm going to get these guys down to Texas. We're going to do passing sessions. I'm going to pay for them. So trying to get that chemistry going, again, having that element, because if I think of a lot of the issues from 18 to 23, when it came to last-minute drives, whether it was conservative play calling or when you were forced to throw the football, ball not being on time. Receiver maybe ran the wrong route too. Not having that type of alignment offensively between the quarterback and the wide receiver is a huge part of it. I feel strongly that improves. If that improves, you're in those situations, I think the result improves by a product of that. So, yeah, I think I don't think it's any coincidence that you did have a better group of receivers, but also a quarterback that had that chemistry with him. But a quarterback, I think Dylan can make the bigger throws than what they were asking Tommy to do, but Tommy making the throws that he could make more on time than what he couldn't.
All part of that. I also think just have no C. And you got to be able to call plays and you got to be able to trust them. So the drive outcome, there's plenty on here on a turnover on downs. So you weren't able to get a first down. So you had 4 downs and you gave the ball back. Handle of interceptions, a couple of fumbles in here, missed field goal, clock expired. I like how Eric let clock expire. Happened a couple of times at Michigan State. Wow. Let the clock expire. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So that's a startling stat that if Nebraska is to take a step forward in the close games, because they will have, again, I think maybe 8 of the 12 could be one-possession games. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I don't expect this weekend, I don't expect week 3 to be one-possession games, and I don't expect the game at the end of October to be a one-possession game. So there's 3 off the 12. There'll be another that won't. but a good majority of them will be one-possession games. And Nebraska isn't going anywhere unless they fix winning those games and finding a way to win them, but not necessarily holding someone off. I'm talking about going and scoring.
Yeah,
because I don't think you agreed with me the other day. I think this season is sink or swim, and it's based on the defense. This is the year of the defense for Nebraska. But they've got to be able to, when they have the ball and they need to score to win one-possession games, they got to be able to reverse that.
Yeah, I would agree that it's complementary football though. When you're setting them up, when the defense is able to give you the field position that you need, that it's ending in the end zone. That it's not necessarily you're relying on an area that is still, I think, a big question mark of how your field goal kicking is, how you're going to be able to call plays, whether it's a fourth down and short, or you need to. The sheet would tell you need to try to take the 3 points, but you don't have confidence in it. So this is where I think there's more of that pressure on the offense to be able to do that part of it. Is it led and spearheaded by the defense? Of course. I think everybody knows that's the identity of this team, but that offense has to. Yeah, absolutely.
I heard more people say, talk more about the offense because you take for granted the defense is just going to be better. They have to be better. The Nebraska defensively can't be the same. The schedule looks different. They will sink or swim, in my opinion, on how the defense plays because they got to be better. They got to be better. And if they're better, that's scary.
It is. If they're better and the offense just does its part, then you can start having the conversation about 8 or 9 without question. If the defense stays the same and the offense is better but not good to great, those last couple of weeks are going to be very important to trying to get to that 6th or 7th win.
Agreed. Quick break. Brandon Vogel is tied up in something else, so we will adjust. We'll have him on tomorrow.
And he's good. He's good for it, yeah. He feels really bad, but I told him the bright side of it is Friday. You get to be part of the Friday show before a Husker game and the season opener. Be all right.
The Husker Hype Friday show. Let's go.
Is that what we've called it?
No,
I think that's taken.
Yeah, gotta have the hype man.
I think that's one of our competitors.
Damn it, I'm gonna get a letter now.
What they call our show or their show.
Okay, well, I'm gonna get a letter. It just kind of came out that way. I apologize.
I've said that before.
It's not hype if it's reality.
That's true. That is true, and we shall find out in 2 days. 2 freaking days. Thank God.
Back with more on 1620 The Zone.
Fall's just around the corner, and 1620 The Zone is giving you the chance to win season passes to Nebraska's favorite fall attraction, Vala's Pumpkin Patch. You could win 2 2024 season passes at Vala's and enjoy all the fall family fun that Vala's has to offer. Enter to win right now at 1620thezone.com.
All right, so I was thinking about something when I was peeing just there during the break.
Many do.
Because it's that time of the year. It's
or we pee more.
You've cleared your calendar, and it's all about football, football, football. Even though some of us have baseball teams that are just hanging on, that are teasing you. Nice win yesterday. Weird game.
Oh, I thought you were talking about your come-from-behind victory.
On Skeeve Day.
By the way, yes, and what a great stat. Up until then, the Cubs were 0-1,754 when trailing by 7 runs or more going into the 7th inning.
That sounds like the White Sox
How
record.
about it?
You just don't think you're going to have Skeens on the bump and be up 10-3 on the Cubs on getaway day in Pittsburgh and think it's over?
Take that.
So I had.
But yes, thank you. That was a good win for
Cubs Pirates and the Guardians Royals game on the split.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's a nice afternoon.
We like the Cubs just kind of kept hanging around.
Yeah.
Once they took Skeens out of the game, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, there's your opening.
And Livy got upset. That's fine. I mean, she should. That's her. I mean, her boyfriend is trying to win the NL Cy Young or the NL Rookie of the Year, and they blew a lead for him.
She should make a scene on Twitter.
She did. She actually did.
Oh, she went all Brittany Mahomes?
She just tweeted out a meme.
Oh, memes.
So I'm watching that game, and the Cubs are like inching back, and a little dink here, and then the 9th comes around, and they just keep scoring. Then I'm watching the Royals game, and I'm thinking, okay, bringing in their bullpen, which the back end has been better. All of a sudden, little dink here, little nick here. It goes from 5-2, 5-3, 5-4. Guardians get it tied. Like the Cubs and the Guardians yesterday almost simultaneously were coming back at the same time. Those games flipped. But the Cubs game was insane. To score like they did they scored 6 in the 9th. But they were down 10-3 and ended up winning 14-2. Cubs should never leave Pittsburgh. They should just stay there and play the Pirates all the time. That was a great series. I enjoyed that series.
Great ballpark.
You're now winners of your last...
absolutely dumb team on the north side of Chicago. Dumb team.
Now winners of your last 6 of 7. So
yeah, but the Braves keep winning. You can't pick up any ground.
No.
I mean, the Braves swept the Twins. Twins are in trouble.
But see, that is a good thing. What the Braves were able to do, I'm sorry that you can't get any ground, but what the Braves were able to do, and at least keeping Minnesota at arm's reach is solid. So it hasn't been completely lost by Cleveland, because I thought there was a good chance, especially the way that game was going early on, when Bob hit a home run in the 3rd too. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. They're gonna get swept, and they will have given up the lead completely, and then they're never coming back from it. So they're still hanging on there.
Yeah. So I was
still
not
into it.
I was not thinking about that while I was peeing.
Oh, okay.
But we still have not put in a shelf here. It'd be good to have a shelf. I'm gonna have my phone up there. So I was setting my fantasy lineup for baseball today, because we are
while you're peeing.
Yeah, it's just a quick slide with the thumb.
On your phone, that is. I'm just clarifying. People knew what you were doing.
Oh,
okay.
The other is a full 2-handed lift. But this dawned on me while I was peeing. This is when you know that you're a football guy and it's football season. Do you know that Brian Kelly, if they get beat by USC, will have gone 3 straight years as the head coach at LSU and not won his opener?
Oh, yeah.
Because the 2 neutral site games with Florida State. Can you imagine Brian Kelly at LSU if they're, a 4.5-point favorite against USC in Vegas on Sunday?
0-1 in 3 straight years.
Yeah. Now that's, again, I think the game of the weekend is Notre Dame, Texas A&M, because I think there's a lot involved there. For especially Notre Dame's perspective, if they win and you're thinking about down the road playoff, I mean, that would behoove Notre Dame to win that game. And Freeman has been good on the road as an underdog. Mike Elko's making his debut. Texas A&M may have their coach right. I love that game. I love that to me is a bigger game than Georgia Clemson, which is getting a lot of run. But the USC LSU game has a lot of intrigue, because look at Lincoln Riley. They're not expected to win, right? They're an underdog. They got a brand new quarterback. People are like, I don't know about
for once they're kind of
USC. It might be a 7-5 team.
Yep.
If they beat LSU, look at how the narrative kind of waddles a little bit on Lincoln Riley. But Brian Kelly could be 0-3 in openers at LSU. That's wild to think about.
And would people see? This is where, again, I understand it's about all about how you finish, but that's a fan base that would be bringing that up a lot in the first week. That's a fan base that I think would be a little uncomfortable with all of a sudden that type of start. Understand? Now, if you're going to lose in week one, is much more forgiving than previous years. We understand that with the college football playoff, but there's certain standards. Hey, we hold our coaches here in Nebraska to certain standards too, especially oddities like that. But if you were to say that LSU is going to be a college football playoff type of team under Brian Kelly, and you've started off that way, that's gonna get a little bit of traction right there.
You know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I probably would be more likely to run a marathon than to sprint. Like, I'm not going to the track to run the 100
You don't want to
against
do
Noah
100,
Lyles.
but it's over so fast.
Yeah,
I think that marathon takes forever.
I think trying to run that fast would hurt my body.
Yeah, but
I think trying to run that long.
Think about how much more time you have to recover.
I'm more of a distance guy. I don't like to go short. I like to go long.
Okay,
it is about the long game.
It is. You got to stick. You got to stick in it and stay in it.
You gain your rhythm then after a while. Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. So, but week one, there's going to be a lot of overreactions. We already saw what it was like at Florida State. Florida State's had a very interesting week post, like losing to Georgia Tech, like what Mike Norvell has said, and the ridiculousness of going to Dublin to play a game. Their fan base is livid. Now, that was a Georgia Tech home game. But there'll be a lot of overreactions. Look at what happens, either for the positive or the negative, what Colorado does tonight.
Oh, yeah.
The Deion fans will love if Colorado wins because they won their first game and they're 1-0. Just like last year. Remember, statement game against TCU. If they win tonight, the Deion fans will be like, look at that. Shut your face, Nebraska fans. The reality will be like, they beat North Dakota State. You know, North Dakota State's not the defending champ in the FCS, and North Dakota State is not North Dakota State of old.
Yes, they've taken a backseat to South Dakota State.
But there'll be, but the ugliness will be if Colorado loses that game. Here's another one to watch on the narrative if they get beat. Because I don't know how much credit they would get for winning, even though I think it would be a good win. James Franklin this weekend.
Yeah.
Another sneaky good.
Going to
Thank
West
you
Virginia.
for playing this game on opening weekend. Penn State and West Virginia renew their rivalry. Last year, tight ball game, but Penn State scored 16 in the second half to pull away. Neil Brown can coach some football. Ask Andrew Bunch and Scott Frost. But he went from the hot seat to, whoa, could West Virginia be playing in the Big 12 championship?
Right.
The place is going to be insane. All right. The stadium's going to blow .42.
He's not kidding.
There will be people that all they're wearing will be a coonskin cap.
Yep.
In the stands.
It will be warm.
It'll be insane in Morgantown.
Oh, I love Morgantown.
But Penn State, in a lot of people's bracketology, are in the playoff because they have rid themselves of a division. They're an 8.5-point favorite. I like West Virginia's quarterback. I think they run the ball effectively. Look at how the narrative, not for a win, but a loss, would be on James Franklin. Even though if Penn State goes in there and wins, I still consider that a quality win.
Yeah.
That's what I love about college football, the week one overreactions. Because we'll have a show on Saturday here, and we'll do the same damn thing if Nebraska wins 42-10 against UTEP.
Oh, sure.
But if they only win like 28-14.
Yes.
Oh, it's over.
They're like, oh, my gosh.
Got a great
sport.
What a great sport.
That is South Alabama all over again. Yeah. Okay,
Fred will start 11-0.
So with Penn State, West Virginia, because Penn State, okay, they're a road favorite, but the part of, you're right, it should be actually somewhat applauded because West Virginia's, they were kind of in the middle of the pecking order in the preseason rankings of the Big 12. I think they were 7th, so a little bit more towards the top. Going there, opening the season on the road at West Virginia, even though they don't have a number next to them, it won't get the same type of run because we know what James Franklin does against top 10, or what I should say, doesn't do against top 10 teams. But there should probably be a little bit more applauding of them being able to play that game right out of the gate on the road and winning that football game. But you're right. If they were to lose that game, Nittany line overreaction, that's what it'd all be about. Now, if they won that game, I still think Penn State people would, depending on how they went. Now, if they went in and just blew out West Virginia, well, then you're, what would the equivalent of Foley Husta as a Nittany Lion be? I don't know. But you'd be there.
It'd be impressive.
It would be very impressive.
If Drew Aller was one of the reasons why. Now, he probably James Franklin is in the category of it would behoove you to win.
Mm-hmm.
But look at Nittany Lion overreaction. How soon would it come up that Matt Rule would be a candidate for Penn State? On the heels of beating UTEP 42-10.
Yeah, that's right. You brought up another one though.
God, this is a great sport.
The one that I
That's
think
the
I think you're 100% on though. If USC wins, not even the fact that Brian Kelly would be an 0-3 in season openers, but USC that people are like, yeah, okay, we're okay with Oregon making the transition because of the team that they bring in. The post Caleb Williams era in USC and the fact that, you look at their win total of 7.5. If they were to win that game, all it's going to take is one. They win that game and they're back in the conversation. And it will be deafening how USC will be right back in there.
Now, here's one that will have major overreaction is the Miami-Florida game. Ben Sass may have saved Billy Napier's job, and Ben Sass doesn't work at UF anymore.
Wait, you brought this up.
Ben Sass?
Oh God, what was the correlation? You got to do this.
So he's out.
Yeah, I know he's.
And
Yeah.
that's right.
The
A new president in Florida
is not
probably
going to make
will
that.
not be in until
That's
January.
Yes.
If he wins 5, he probably stays. But look at this. So on the list, we need to start this list. Opening week of college football, coaches that are in games of, I don't know, similar talent, ranked teams. I'm not looking at like, hey, Ryan Day, you better beat Akron. Okay.
I mean, if they didn't, that would
that would be frowned upon.
Now that would be the shot heard around the world.
Now, if Ohio State didn't beat Akron, I would do an investigation on what's going on.
Yeah,
Connor Stallions probably.
But
point shaving.
Yeah.
On the list of it would behoove you to win this weekend, Coach, Mario Cristobal. Yeah. But look at the line. The line for Miami, Florida is tight.
Mm-hmm. 2.5 right now.
It's like those splits you're going to see on the offensive line. UTEP this weekend.
It started when we talked to Brett Ciance, which we'll talk to tomorrow as well. More people are high. Well, I think even Phil Steele was somewhat high on Miami. We were curious if they would get a top 15 ranking with the AP top 25, and they're still reluctant to put them in the top 15, but at top 20, there has been probably more conversation about Cam Ward in Miami in the last 2 weeks than I can remember, really since spring. I don't think anybody really even talked about him that much in the spring or post-spring between May and June. It was almost once the publications came out, people had some Miami content that you thought, okay, I'm starting to look at this. But for Mario Cristobal, if he can win, and again, Florida's got a brutal schedule, but you go into the Swamp and you win, and you're not asking much to cover. Win by a field goal, you covered, you went into the Swamp and you beat Florida. There's validation in my opinion.
Your well-paid quarterback goes in there and wins.
Yes.
So it would behoove Mario Cristobal to win.
Absolutely.
Now, Dan the Corn Man on the stream brings this up. This interesting nugget about Iowa, Illinois State before I give you his prediction. I'm pretty sure, because I was looking at my card, the total for the game is 41.
Which one is this?
Do you have to go back? Do you have to go back almost a whole year to find
Iowa,
a total for an Iowa game getting into the 40s?
Yeah. What was?
I don't think it was last year because we would have.
Yeah,
we would have talked
they
about
had
it.
a game. The season opener weren't
early. Yeah.
I thought the season opener was probably close to that. I don't know exactly what it was, but post Iowa State, and I think Iowa State was was under 41. I'm pretty confident that. I think from that point on, no. I think they were always at most in the 30s.
Western Michigan last year.
Okay, yeah. That had to be the only
Western
one.
Michigan, that's the last time that an Iowa game had a total of 40 or more.
Yeah.
The total is 41. Now, I will entertain what Dan the Corn Man, great name, he said Illinois State 24, Iowa 23. Now, Illinois State is not right there with South Dakota State, North Dakota State, and the Missouri Valley, but Illinois State is not bad.
How do they score, though?
Well,
that's the thing.
24-23. That's how they score. You can kick the ball. You can run the ball. You can catch the ball. You can sack the man with the ball in the end zone. You
got it.
You can catch the ball when it's floating in the air and take it back the other way.
Just waiting for you to say,
but think about, there is no Kirk Ferentz.
Yep.
They have a brand new quarterback, essentially Cade McNamara, with a brand new offense. Mm-hmm. Now, Higgins and Castro are going to wake up on Saturday morning in Iowa City and play the game, so that's not great for Illinois State offensively.
Right.
Easton Stick went into Iowa City and won.
Mm-hmm.
Then remember the scintillating game that set college football back to the days of 6-4 Iowa Penn State.
Yep.
Was the South Dakota State game.
Right. South Dakota State couldn't score.
Iowa
couldn't either.
Iowa in openers don't necessarily blow the doors off you. Last year, they danced with Utah State for a while, and they only ended up winning by 10.
It's true.
I
just don't know how they'd score.
I'm not going there.
Yeah.
But if all of a sudden you're sitting at your tailgate on Saturday and you're hearing scores and you hear Iowa 10, Illinois State 7 at halftime, would you be surprised?
No. How'd they score the 7 if you're Illinois State? But I would pound the under on that.
They threw the ball or they kicked the ball.
This is a simple game, but I wouldn't be stunned by that. In fact, I think you pound the under like crazy in this game for the simple fact that even as much as how dominant I think Iowa's defense will be against Illinois State's offense, does anybody really expect them to score more than 30 points? Unless this is a run of defensive scores. I mean, that one, I almost think is a sucker play. Like, what do y'all know that we don't? Because I feel like you have to pound the under on that one. That is, they don't lose. They don't lose to Illinois State. No way. This reminds me a lot of South Dakota State, though, where I don't expect them to do much offensive. I don't expect Iowa to do much offensively, but this will be one of those just disgusting football games.
Mm.
Good thing you got that defense. It's a damn good thing.
Well, you still got special teams.
Mm-hmm. No Torrey Taylor, though.
Games this weekend, watch the special teams. Tackling and special teams, week 1, seem to give us our biggest upsets.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Brian Edwards, looking at his card real quick here. He's got a little upset play that he likes. He'll join us to wrap up the show. Don't forget, Connor and Josh, along with USC, out at Oscars, 173rd and Center, our Red Out Week going on. We'll be out there noon to 1, big roundtable. It's going to be a fun discussion today. There's a lot of stuff. We've all from 6A to 6P, I think, hit every angle. I will be very impressed if we come up with a new angle.
Yeah. Well,
or is it just going to be predictions?
Just predictions around the clock.
I think that Dylan Rilo has a better chance to throw for 250 yards on Saturday than 4 running backs combined for 250.
You need to do the show as Doc.
I think Nebraska last year, only 10 times did they have completions of 30 or more yards. They might have 4 of those on Saturday.
Paul.
You sound like Gary in Birmingham calling the Paul Feinbaum show.
And I love it. I'm here for it.
I think Nebraska will only turn the ball over 1 time on Saturday, but I think they'll take it away
3,
where they have a +2.
3.
Maybe that's what'll be part of the roundtable.
Mm-hmm.
Only one way to find
hit
out.
Numbers.
That's how I'm going to use this voice to talk to Brian Edwards. He's going to join us next on the home of the Zone in Omaha, Nebraska. 1620 The Zone. All right, time for our Vegas Insider. We have made it to week 1 of the college football season. He is Brian Edwards. He joins us now. Good morning, B.
Good morning, fellas. What's happening?
Around here, we are on Prime Watch to watch North Dakota State and Colorado tonight, and then this weekend. Let's dive right into this, and I'm going to come at you right away. So we've talked about you like Georgia as I think Georgia's a favorite for a reason. Their game against Clemson and then Virginia Tech as well. I want to start with Texas A&M. Notre Dame, this is a huge game. They win this game, that looks good on a playoff resume as an independent. They are good on the road, in my opinion, under Freeman as a dog. I know the line is only 3 with A&M being a favorite. Why do you like A&M to win this game and to cover as a 3-point favorite?
Well, on various podcasts and radio shows, I've heard multiple Notre Dame insiders and or beat writers talk about how the loss of the rising sophomore offensive tackle was probably the third or fourth player on the roster they couldn't afford to lose. He was Joe Alt's replacement, the first-team All-American. They're already kind of rebuilding on the O-line. And so I think the matchup of A&M's D-line and Notre Dame's O-line is going to be the story of the game. A&M got Nick Scorton, a transfer from Purdue, preseason third-team All-American, and Phil Steele's mag and other, mags, All-American type hype. Steele's unit rankings has A&M number 6 on the defensive line. They got another stud in Shamar Turner at D tackle. Look, A&M went 0-4 in one-possession games last year, but they were plus 1180 in net yardage. I just think Elko's a breath of fresh air after the, toxicity of Jimbo Fisher's contract, hot seat status, et cetera. And really not just last year, but for multiple years, the chemistry in that locker room was not good. What Elko did at Duke was, Cutcliffe went 3-9, 4-8 his last 2 years. He comes in, he goes 9-4 straight up, 10-3 ATS. And then with Riley Leonard basically missing half the season last year, he still goes 8-5. And Connor Wigman's back healthy, 16-2 career TDI and T ratio. I think they needed to turn over the roster, with a lot of bad apples. And Elko brought in 28 transfers, 100,000 fans. Give me A&M laying the short number.
Game I know you're going to be watching for more than just a wagering standpoint, too. Your beloved Florida Gators hosting the Miami Hurricanes in the Swamp. Miami's a slight favorite, laying 2.5, over under 53.5. How are you feeling about this one? Are there any plays that you're intrigued by on this one between Miami and Florida?
Yeah, small opinion on Florida here. Miami, despite Miami's preseason hype and seeming love affair from the media, they've had their struggles too. And Cristobal, 14 games as a favorite at Miami, 4-10 against the spread, but 2 of the 4 spread covers, one was at home to Bethune-Cookman, one was at Temple last year. And Napier remains pretty good as a dog, 8-6 ATS against, during his Gators tenure, but overall 31 career underdog spots as a head coach, 20-10-1 against the spread. And whether home or dog on the road, Cristobal at Miami, 5-5 straight up, 4-6 against the spread. The fan base is, obviously down. 3 losing seasons in a row for Florida for the first time in more than 7 decades. But at this point in August, there's 0 in the L column, and Miami's a hated rival. So I think the Swamp will be as juiced as it would normally be for a big game. And Cam Ward, he's good, but he's getting way too much preseason hype as well. I give Florida the edge at the quarterback position, actually. And I know he played in the Pac-12. He's never played in an environment like the Swamp, and I think the crowd will be a factor. I still worry about Florida's defense. Again, it's a small opinion, but I like the Gators to win outright.
Hey, two programs. I like that they're playing that Sunday night, which is a great night slot. We're all watching the game. You get LSU and USC are playing in Vegas. Both teams are breaking in new quarterbacks. Both head coaches with their respective fan bases are going, what are we doing here, Brian Kelly, Lincoln Riley? Intriguing game. Let's talk about the total. You think this will be a high-scoring affair?
I do, and I will be there at this game.
Nice.
And, even though we lost the number 1 and number 2 picks in the NFL draft at the quarterback position for both schools, Miller Moss was fantastic in the bowl game, 372 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, and a 42-28 win over Louisville. Nussmeier had his struggles kind of in the first quarter against Wisconsin in the bowl game, but he was fantastic in the second half. He was fantastic in the second half against Georgia in the SEC championship game in 2022. He's a rare breed to really patiently wait his turn. He's been in this program for a long time. I think he's going to be a good quarterback. Now, the offense won't be as good as last year, but these 2 defenses last year were horrible. And I know they've got 2 new coordinators, but I'm not sure USC got much better defensively. We'll see on LSU. I got over 63, so obviously I'm not as bullish at 64.5, but I think it's over or past, and I'm on the over.
Hey, real quickly, interesting one with head-to-head win totals between Ole Miss and Miami, sitting there at 9.5 between the two. Who do you like to finish out better than the other, Ole Miss or Miami?
I like Ole Miss minus 135 price. I also like Ole Miss is over 9.5, and Missouri's over 9.5, and Iowa over 8 or 8.5 at plus money. But yeah, Miami's, they're getting overhyped. Ole Miss is legit. They're going to be favored 10 times. Might even end up being favored at LSU. Right now, they're a 2.5 to 3-point dog in games of the year line. I'm not conceding defeat for Ole Miss at LSU, although LSU does have 2 weeks to prepare, or Georgia at home. But I think Ole Miss wins at least 10. Now, Ole Miss and Missouri have the 2 easiest SEC schedules. Depending on what happens across the country, it could be a little hairy for those teams to get in the CFP with 10-2 records. In fact, I think if Alabama goes 9-3, they probably would have a better case than Ole Miss and Missouri at 10-2, especially if Alabama has the head-to-head win over Missouri. They are minus 8.5 at home in that games of the year line. But back to Ole Miss and Miami. I would lay a game and a half perhaps if price was right. But minus 135 head up. I like Ole Miss there.
Hey, I'm glad that we're back. We got lots of stuff to talk about. It's a really good card for a lot of us that like to dabble. I know you'll be busy. Enjoy Vegas. Have fun out there. That'll be a great game. And most importantly, take a deep breath, and it's okay. Don't break anything watching your Gators and the Canes. That's Brian Edwards, our senior handicapper from Vegas Insider.
Love
it. It begins today. Some good high school football going on. You got Westside and North. You got Christian Jones, Tyson Terry on the field. We'll talk to you on TV over on the CW. Our game is Elkhorn Gretna. Actually starts at 4 because of the weather that's coming in later tonight. There'll be tape delayed. They'll replay it at 7 after Steve Harvey's Family Feud.
Yeah,
but you can watch it live on the stream. Have fun, everybody. Football is here. We're headed out to Oscars right when the show is over. Here we go. We'll see tonight. There'll be a lot of people watching CU. I say go CU. And we'll see you at noon. At 1620 The Zone.